Welcome back to another edition of the Rodcast. It's a great show planned for you. We got plenty of football to discuss. So we'll talk SEC spring meetings. Steve Sarkisian, CDC, representing down there at the SEC spring meetings. Not just about football, but a lot of football discussion. So we'll get into that, talking about the rivalries that Texas will renew in the SEC. We'll get into that coming up a little bit later on in the show. We'll also talk about the NBA finals a little bit. We got one side set, the Eastern Conference side of things. So we'll talk about Boston's path to the NBA Finals. Some saying it may have been the easiest path to the NBA Finals in the history of the NBA. We'll discuss that and talk about it. We'll also talk about Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals, and we'll discuss the Dallas Mavs and their path, their journey, trying to get to the NBA Finals, but the job is not done yet. T-Wolves were able to force a Game 5. We'll see if they can force a Game 6 to keep hope alive. We'll also talk some Texas football, going behind the burnt orange curtain. There is a CBS top 150 player ranking. We'll get to that coming up a little bit later on in the show. There's also all of your usual favorites. We'll have your big fat poll of the day. We got what the facts, what the stats. We got off the record coming up. Who said that coming up a little bit later on in the show as well. We'll also get some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. My man CJ Stroud is getting some love, and it's just the right kind of love. We'll talk about that and explain that coming up a little bit later on the show. But all that and more. Before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew, because he is one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but I'm damn sure that this man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for a hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. We call him the Idealionaire. We also call him the real MVP, but we also like to call him friend, co-host, and neighbor. It's Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, brother?
Doing good, doing good. We've made it to Thursday. It's a short week
Yes,
that we made to
sir.
Thursday, so we're just keep rolling along. I had to deal with no basketball last night. I'm getting used to the world of, it's going to
Oh
be
man,
less and less, and then it
count
goes
it down,
away,
count it
and then I
down, man.
get the draft, and then I get summer league. So I'll be back soon enough, but I got to deal with it for a little
Summer
bit.
league. Oh man, summer league. I don't even know the equivalent, because I'm a football guy, so I don't even know the equivalent of what summer league is in
Because there's not,
football.
there's not
I guess
like,
it's like Billy being into OTAs.
well, no, because it's just the rookie, like it's just the young guys. It's the
That's what I'm saying. Like
future
it's just
league,
really being into
yeah.
like the rookie mini camp. Like I don't even know. That's not even the equivalent. So I don't know. Yeah, I just take it seasonally. The summer league. That's an obsession right there, man. You got to really be into NBA to be into summer league, and that's why we love our man Patrick. It's the right time of year to have Patrick's expertise.
There you
Appreciate you, brother.
go. Let me introduce
Yeah.
my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is the new Rod father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
And I will say this for you, because you are an actual fan of college basketball too.
Yes.
That for you it's a bridge, it's an easy bridge, because you do get a little glimpse of some of the guys that were in college and them
Yeah.
trying to make their way to the league through the summer league, that kind of stuff. So for you, yeah, you get to really kind of dabble in your upset with or your obsessions, which is basketball period, but NBA first and then college. You're an NBA
Yes.
first guy, right?
Yeah, I'm
NBA
an
first
NBA
guy.
first guy.
You
So
like
grew
me?
up.
I'm an NFL first guy, and then I love college, but it's
Yeah,
more in
exactly.
Texas than
Yeah,
anywhere
yeah.
else.
No, it's because you go and it's how you grew up, what you were watching when you were growing up, and then there's
Yeah.
just that special love for that, and then you get back to college. Plus, college is just there's always something about college that I can know. I don't can't even know the name of every team in college basketball.
That's true. That's a
There's
great point.
that
It's a lot to
little
keep
part
up
of my
with.
brain that I'm like, I
Yeah.
can know so much about this NBA,
Yeah.
but there will always be something else about college I don't. You'll play a team, and you'll be like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like when we started playing Grand Canyon, and you're like, this is a
Yeah.
thing now. We have a Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, you're right. That's a great point. That's a great point. At least you can isolate your knowledge and you can
yes,
really dive in NBA or NFL. Maybe that's why I like it so much, because I do feel like I know more about the league. Yeah, college football is a lot more expansive in terms of knowing all the personnel, knowing all the schemes, knowing all the coaches, the
yeah,
cultures. Yeah, I agree with you. Good point there. All right, my Patrick also makes a good point in his topics for the Big Fat Poll today. We'll learn what that is coming up at 6:45. I have my rant of the day. That'll be coming up next hour in my rant. I'm not sure. I got a couple of topics I could get into in my rant. We can go over. There's some roster rankings by Pro Football Focus that I might want to get into. There's also a resurgence of a type of concept that's coming back in football. It might be trickling down from the NFL to college, but it's making its way back. And I think at one point it's going to be considered now, because everything is cyclical. What was once old is new again. It was once probably one of the more popular concepts on defense, and I don't know, for some reason it kind of faded. Now I think it's about to make its way back. So we'll talk about that too coming up. Might be Rod's rant. If not, I'll stuff it somewhere else in the show. We got a lot of different things that we're going to get into. All right, let's not waste any time. Of course, we'll get your horn headlines here, and then we'll dive into the NBA. I want to talk about the Celtics and their path to the finals, but also we'll preview the Western Conference Finals and the Mavs and the T-Wolves. Right now, Mavs up 3-1 in that series. Before we do, let's let my man Patrick do us a service and hit us with the horn headlines so we can get updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories of the day.
All right, your horn in is brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas softball begins their run in Oklahoma City tonight in the Women's College World Series against Stanford. This is Texas' 7th all-time appearance in the Women's College World Series. They're facing a Cardinal program who they split the 2 matchups they faced each other this season. In the NBA, the Mavericks will take on the Timberwolves back in Minnesota tonight in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. The Mavs will hope Derek Lively, who has been upgraded to questionable, will be able to return after leaving Game 3 when he was hit with a knee to the back of the head. Lively is 13 for 13 in the West Finals and has been the Mavs' best plus-minus player in the postseason at plus 109. In Major League Baseball, the Astros dropped their 3rd straight game to division-leading Mariners 2-1 in the 10th inning yesterday. The Astros will look to salvage a game in the series today, and the Rangers took care of their opponent from last year's World Series as they beat the Diamondbacks 6-1, with Corey Seager hitting his 8th home run and his 8th straight game, sparking the Rangers hitting. The Rangers are off today before starting a series with the Marlins on Friday, and that is your horn headlines.
All right, Patrick, appreciate the horn headlines there. All right, so let's start with the Mavs and previewing Game 5 for the Mavs and the Timberwolves. Now, we talked about this yesterday a little bit, and we talked about the superstars in clutch time, and I got a quote that I loved from the Mavs. It shows me, I mean, we know the Mavs are going to win this series. History would suggest no teams ever come back down from an 0-3 deficit in the NBA playoffs. So the Mavs are going to win. It's just about how it looks. And like you said, they need the rest. So they need to end this thing as soon as possible. But it was really interesting. I saw a quote from both Luka and Kyrie after the game, both saying the same thing. They were both basically saying that it was on them.
Yeah.
That it was their fault that the team lost because they both should have shown the clutch time. Here's the Luka quote. He said, I think that game's on me. I just didn't give enough energy. And here's the Kyrie quote after the game. A lot of this is on me. I had spurts. We had spurts, but I've got to put a full 48 minutes of a game together. This is why I love it, because it just shows you the chemistry of the Mavs is right.
Yeah.
I always say it's about superstars, man. And your superstars, the best superstars, stars, period, whatever, they are me guys when you lose, we guys when you win. Hey, we lost. Man, it's on me. I gotta be better. You scored. You had a triple double. Yeah, gotta be better. I gotta make it. That triple double wasn't effective. I'd rather not have triple double and got my teammates more. Whatever it may be. Like it doesn't even matter if your justification and your excuses are valid or even rational.
Yeah.
You just need to have all of the blame pointed at you because you're the superstar. You can handle the burden, right? Take the burden off of your teammates.
Yeah.
Take it off of the coaches. No, on me. I'll be better. Don't worry about it. And then when you win, oh man, my teammates were awesome. They were great. I couldn't have done this without them. Couldn't have done this without them. The work they put in, they make me better. They uplift me. They're support. You know what I mean? They are there. This Mavs team is at that point where their stars are when they win, they are we guys, but when they lose, they're me guys. Both of them. Oh man, that was on me. I gotta be better. Now that is true. They do have to be better.
Yes.
But the fact that that's the first thing that they go to mentally shows me that the culture of the Mavs, it's going in the right direction, or it's already on track. It could be on track to being really special. I remember the last time the Mavs won the championship, right, against the Miami Heat. We all remember this. because the Miami Heat was supposed to, dominate the Mavs and on their run to winning not one, not two, not three. The legacy of LeBron James, and we all remember it. I'm a big LeBron fan, but that was an iconic finals and always will be, just because of the storylines and how it all worked out. And I don't know if you remember this, Patrick. You probably do because you're such an NBA fan. During that finals, the Wall Street Journal, they did a just a deep dive article, actually a research analytical article, if you will. They called the Touchy Philly Index, and essentially through the first three games of that finals, they documented how often each team like high-fived each other, touched each other, hugged each other, pat each other on the butt, pat each other on the back, whatever it was, right? Just that show of support and that physical affection, what I mean, towards your teammates. Like how much of they called it the Touchy Philly Index.
Yeah.
And I remember reading articles like, man, that is interesting. And basically what they found was that the amount of basically camaraderie, high fives, and between the Miami Heat, it dissipated as the finals started to go. I think they did 3 games. It dissipated as the study went on, as the finals went on, and that the Dallas Mavericks, that their camaraderie based on the affection they showed each other, it increased, like more love for each other, more and more love, and that actually was something that kind of showed the culture of the Mavs and the culture of the Heat, which we knew at the time the culture wasn't set yet. It was brand new. It was brand spanking new. That Mavs team, they had some guys who had been around for a while. They had been together for a little while. Matter of fact, that was like a kind of a one-hit wonder with that Mavs team. Right, it was Dirk's. That was his crowning moment so it just showed you that the Mavs had not the talent advantage, but they had a cultural advantage. We talk about here in Texas all the time with Sark and the culture and how it helps them win games. They did have a cultural advantage, and it showed in the Touchy Philly Index. I'll give you the numbers here in a second, but it that's kind of reminds me of what I'm witnessing now with this Mavs team. Now, am I saying the Mavs are going to win the title? I'm not necessarily saying that yet. But I do think that's a big part. Both of these stars are, I think, embody that. It's a big part of why the Mavs now are starting to ascend to this level, a height they haven't been at since they won that title against the Heat in 2000. What was that? 2011? What was that?
Yeah, 2011. Yeah, and I mean, I agree with that. And I think, when you look at Luka, he's only 25 years old. But again, we've talked about he's a 5-time All-NBA first teamer. So this is somebody who has had expectations of what he has done now for 5 straight years, that people expect him to be able to keep pushing forward. He was in the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago. So there's more and more that you see about him where he's growing up and he's starting to get there. I think the relationship with Kyrie Irving has given him more of that, and Kyrie has grown with Jason Kidd and understanding that he doesn't want to have the reputation that he has gotten saddled with. And I feel the difference between Brooklyn and Dallas is he's taken more of a side of him understanding his part in the media's narrative about him, and has made the point to say, no, if all my teammates are saying this and all the media is saying this, let me look at myself first and just see what I can change little bits to make a personality where a lot of people think I'm a good guy, but it's just not seeming to come across. It seems like he's fixed a lot of those things, and it's coming together where you can talk about, how those two guys said it's about me and not we, and that you're 100% right. But then you saw the rest of the team immediately come out and say, no, well, we didn't do enough. No, well, we didn't do enough. And the rest of the team rallied around their stars and understood where it's at. And if you look at Minnesota, it's the setup of where Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards are still somewhat working out that dynamic between themselves, where Anthony Edwards is clearly the emerging star, but Karl Anthony Towns was the guy there for 7 years in Minnesota. He was supposed to be the star. And for him, I don't know if he's fully understood that he's the number 2. And I think he's still in his brain, still has a piece of, well, we're like co-number 1s. And it's, no, Anthony Edwards is number 1, you're number 2. And with Luke and Kyrie, again, we said Kyrie is going in right now and being one of the best Robins in sports history, really finding his place of, we understand it's Luka's team, and then it goes to Kyrie, and that mold of where everybody is understanding their role where PJ Washington came in and his role was really kind of laid out for what they wanted. Daniel Gafford, if Derek Lively is able to come back in this game, that would be huge. But he knows where his role is. I think all those guys know where their role is. And so if you say the one main difference is everyone had their role and then one guy gets hurt and Derek Lively, that kind of messes up where you were at a little bit. You're going to have to deal with injuries. That's part of the playoffs. That's part of basketball. I mean, it's part of sports. But we've seen that it is set up in that, the culture of it where everybody knows where they're supposed to be and everybody knows if they're not covering their weight, what the implications are. That's where it feels like this Mavs team is. And for Minnesota, they're a team that was set up that everyone knew what their job was against Denver. And everyone had their assignments against Denver, and they pulled it off. They got the win against Denver. And now with things changing a little bit, and Mike Conley isn't having the same Western Conference Finals as he had in the last round because they were designed. Everything in the offense was designed to beat Denver. Yeah. And Rudy Gobert is having a harder time because everything they were doing was designed to beat Denver. And so there's just a couple of pieces where they're having okay moments, but they're missing out at some clutch points in the big moments. And that's where Minnesota has to continue to find to get better because the Mavs are having an ability right now to just get it done when it needs to get done. And that's Luka and Kyrie. And so they're right. It is on them. We've talked about it all season. If Luka is efficient, the Mavs have a much better winning percentage. And if Kyrie plays well, then they even have a better winning percentage. So I think they both understood they could have done more in that game. When you only lose by 5, I think for them to, they have to walk off and go, if we lost by 20, it's the team. And maybe it's not us. We could not have carried this team if we lose by 20. But we were in the game. We were a missed free throw away from it being a 2-point game and being able to come back down and possibly get a big 3 to tie the game. That was where you were at, and that was with Kyrie having his worst game of the Western Conference Finals. That was with Luka probably having his least efficient game. It wasn't really a bad game. It was just least efficient. And so I think they both understand, for game 5, let's just try and crank it up one more time and get ready to go.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. That's a great point about, when it's within 5, it's clutch. That's the clutch time we always talk about. Within 5, no, that's so clutch time is on the superstars. It's on you in that moment to rise to the occasion, whether you've had a good game or a bad game. And all these games have come down to the clutch time, and they've all been within 5 points within the last 5 minutes of the game. And it's all about who steps up then. And I'll also throw out there, because I think you're right about really the Minnesota Timberwolves in terms of the guys don't really know their roles yet.
Yeah.
For some reason, the Mavs, these guys do seem defined in their roles. There's no doubt. I mean, the breakout kind of team and star Anthony Edwards with the Minnesota Timberwolves. There's no doubt in terms of the talent, and they have some kind of obvious size advantages in this series too. But there's no doubt. I mean, I think the Mavs, and maybe that's what the culture reflects, that everybody knows their role. I'm glad you brought up that. Okay, I told you I'd give you this before we wrapped up this discussion. So from 2011, this is from that Wall Street Journal article about, they call it the Touchy-Feely Index. It was a research study initially done by the Cal Berkeley, by 3 researchers at Cal Berkeley, and they initially did it about the 2008-2009 season, and they found that the Celtics and the Lakers dapped each other up, slapped each other up, loved each other, whatever, had more touchy-feely factors than any other data points than any other team. So they did it again for the Mavs and the Miami Heat series, at least the first 3 games. And this is what they found. They found that the Mavs, with 250 slaps, hugs, taps, or bumps, almost twice as touchy-feely as the Miami Heat, who had only 134 instances of televised contact. In those 3 games, the Mavericks were 82% more likely to high-five. No player over the 3 games collected more high-fives than the Mavs forward Tyson Chandler. He was followed closely by teammates Dirk Nowitzki, Sean Marion, and Jason Kidd. It's all about positive reinforcement, is what one of the Mavs players said. And we got a bunch of guys who really get along, and they really support one another. LeBron James led the Miami Heat with a mere 41 high fives, but the touchiest Miami player was Juwan Howard, who averaged 38 high fives per 48 minutes for the highest. And I know it's a little bit funny and it's in jest, I believe, but I think it points out something though that yeah, that is something about close teams, right? Teams that aren't close. Like when and LeBron James learned this too. Remember at one point, LeBron, I don't know when it was, maybe it started with the Cavs, but he'd have like his own individual handshake with every player. Do you remember when
Yeah,
this
yeah.
started? Kind of kind of thing, and it seems silly, but it's not. It's kind of like the quarterback in the locker room, making sure he spends time with everybody in every
Yeah.
position group. It is about that leadership and following and being all in and playing for one another. That kind of stuff. It's very intangibles and things you really can't measure, the immeasurables, but they really do matter when the fit hits the shan, especially when it's clutch time, stuff like that. And it matters right now. I think that for the Mavs, like I said, for this Mavs team, it's not the touchy. Maybe we should start looking at the touchy feely index again for this Mavs team. Maybe it is really good, but I do think in terms of the roles, like you said, the players know their roles. And when I brought the quote about Kyrie and Luka, that's the role of a star. Going
Yeah.
back to that initially, the role of a star is no, the burden's on you. Take the heat, take the burden when you guys lose, and when y'all win, give the props and give the praise to everybody else. That's what a star does. They are acting and performing like true superstars, both he and Kyrie.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's the point. And when you talk about, the touchy feely and all of that too, it's about reassuring your younger guys and the guys that are the role players that they are an important piece of what is happening. And when you say, that's the point of Kyrie and Lucas saying it's on us, the other guys are doing well, the other guys are doing what they need to be doing. You're constantly trying to go back there and say, no, guys, don't change up what you're doing, because if you start to get the yips and if you start worrying and if you start double thinking and you start if that ball slows down, when you're supposed to be cutting to the basket and you're not sure, that's a turnover now because you weren't sure because, well, man, I don't know if they trust. I don't know if he wants, he may want to make the basket. And I don't know. And if you cut away from those, what Gafford and Jones have been able to do to cut to the basket, if you get away from what Jaden Hardy's been able to do coming off the bench and give him a little bit of spark of youth and those kind of plays where you need those guys to step up in the playoffs if you're the Mavs, because you just don't have a ton of depth. You need everyone to play at a really high level who's playing. It's that kind of, whether that is touchy-feely or whether that's in the locker room, letting somebody know, PJ Washington, hey, man, I know you had another bad shooting night. Keep shooting because we need you to be able to hit those. We know you're going to. So it's all right. Keep doing what you're doing. We were happy with what you're doing. Don't worry about it because you're not costing us, because we were 5 points out and I missed 2 free throws. I missed, I had turnovers. That's on me. That's not on you. And so I think that kind of stuff of making sure that you don't allow any of those guys to start second guessing themselves. And then it has to be Luka and Kyrie, and they got to put up 70 because everybody else is kind of gone down. That's where you don't want to get to.
Love that point too. Yep. All right. I wanted to get to the Celtic stuff, and we got time for it. Like I said, if I can, we'll shuffle things around because there's a debate, and I'm sure Patrick is aware of it because he's an NBA fan, that the Celtics path to the NBA Finals may have been the easiest in NBA history. We'll just throw this stat out there so we can at least start the conversation. We may not finish it here because we got behind the burn orange curtain coming next segment. But if you look at a record alone, all right, the record alone. The Boston Celtics conference playoff basically opponents averaged 47 wins in the regular season. So their opponents in the regular season, they averaged 47 wins, which ties to 19th lowest opponent total among all 80 finals teams since 1983. So that's not the worst. Or the easiest, I should say, path to the finals. They got them in the top 20, but, and this is the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size. But if you're looking at injury adjusted, so you throw in kind of the injury adjusted path to the finals, and I think this is like since 1984, the Boston Celtics would have the easiest path to the finals if you're looking at injury adjusted. So you got to, you're looking at a lot of different things. It's kind of an analytical cumulative metric that they throw in, but it's about players and games lost due to injuries and how many of your players missed games during the playoffs,
Yeah.
and adding that to the metric. And when you add that to the metric, it is considered the easiest path to the playoffs since 1984, if you consider injuries. So it you can argue both. You can make that argument if you want to.
No, I agree. We live in a world where everything has to be the most or the best. Like, you can't just have things be top 5 anymore.
Yeah.
Everything's got to be the best. Look, it is what it is. It's definitely one of the easiest paths to the Eastern Conference Finals ever. That's a debate. The debate isn't, well, is it, so that's why the debate has to be, is it the easiest ever? Because we understand it's one of, and if it's one of, then that's all that matters. It's the reality of it is they had a very easy path. Historically, they had an easier path to the Eastern Conference Finals they've had before. I think the conversation isn't, was it the easiest path? I think the conversation is that a good thing or a bad thing? Yes, you're healthier and you didn't get beat up, but the rest, you go, well, yeah, you're rested, but it's the finals. Both teams will get that extra little bit of rest. You get that because they spread it out. But the question is, fire forges steel, it's iron versus iron. Iron forges iron. I don't remember the thing at 6:30 in the morning, but but if you remember, it's like there's you get better as the playoffs go on because you keep facing different schemes and you keep facing great players, and it makes you a better player and it solidifies your team. What we just talked about the Mavs in that locker room, this is a more solidified Mavs roster than it was at the beginning of the playoffs
because of the adversity.
Because of the adversity, and you have to have those types of things in your season. And the Celtics haven't even had it really in their season. This is the Celtics team, so when they face whoever they're going to face in this finals, you were expecting them to have adversity they haven't really met all season, and it's that's where you have to worry if you're a Celtics fan. That do you have the team to get through that with a superstar in Jason Tatum, who doesn't seem to want to be the superstar. He doesn't seem to want to be the number one. I mean, he wants to be called the number one, but he doesn't seem to want to be the number one. And a coach who is extremely young and extremely inexperienced, and Joe Mazzulla, is that going to be able to pull it off? You don't know what Kristaps Porzingis is going to be. You brought him in. He's supposed to be a big piece of this, but you don't know if he's even going to be able to play, much less contribute at a high level. Has not played in several weeks now. I think there's factors of it where you can say this is not necessarily the best thing in the world. Now, you'd like to be able to say, well, we didn't play 7 games every series, but at the same part, I'd like to be tested a little more than Pascal Siakam had some good games against us.
Well, and to your point too, for the coach, it's great. It'd be great for them to have to win one of those chess matches.
Yeah,
you have to make adjustments and then come up with a creative counter. And I'm with you, and the Celtics really haven't been tested to that extent. But to your point, to answer the conversation, so if you look at the 8 teams with the easiest path to the finals since 1984, there's the 87 Lakers, easiest path. 84 Lakers. 2023 Nuggets are on here. 85 Lakers, 88 Lakers. Damn, a lot of Lakers on here. 84 Celtics, 2013 Heat, 91 Bulls. Those are the top 8. And of those 8 teams, 7 won the title that year.
Yeah, and I mean,
the only team that lost the 84 Lakers, and they did so in 7 games against the 84 Celtics.
Yeah, and that's
also on the same chart.
It is a different world than that.
Yes, I would say the 80s. That's why I wanted to point out the 80s are a bit different there.
Yes, that's when you were able, when the Lakers and Celtics basically stockpiled all the best players in the league, and then you had some other decent teams in the East, but the Western Conference didn't have a ton of superstars, and the Lakers had like 6 on their team, and everybody else had 1. So yeah, they had an easier path because the way the league was set up, then there wasn't much parity. That's why the Lakers and Celtics were in every single year. So it's a way different league than in the 80s.
It is. But my point is that it doesn't, to kind of piggyback on what you said, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Celtics aren't going to be great and win the title.
No, it doesn't.
Just because they have an easy path. But also, they have not really been tested. So we don't really know what this Celtics team is made of because they haven't been pushed.
No, I mean, you got to remember, the Lakers and Celtics played so much in the NBA Finals. They made the format 3-2-3 because they entered the long travel. That's how set in stone it was. Those two teams were playing every year in the NBA Finals. It really wasn't a question. They were the most teams expected. So it's a different world now where You say maybe it's Denver and then Minnesota. It's I those easy past the finals are a little different. I just don't know if I get that there was probably injuries and other things, but yeah, those paths were easier because you just didn't have the better teams. You just didn't have great teams in either one of those conferences. I mean, I think that Boston's there. I think there's just flaws that everybody sees in the game. They're super talented. They have a really, really good roster, but I think there are flaws that everybody can see in this Celtics team. And the question is, can you get a team in the West in Minnesota or Dallas who can get through the Western Conference and then refocus, and have that energy to come against them?
Yeah, no, it's gonna be. Like I said, we won't jinx them. But the Mavs tonight got to take care of business. We'll preview that and kind of break that down from a X's and O's perspective, if you will, and talk about the strategy. What's the counter going to be for Dallas in this game? They just kind of keep doing what what they have been doing, or do you see them do something a little bit different? Because it does seem that Cat and Anthony Edwards, at least in Game 4, were able to have a little bit more success, changed up their strategy, got a little bit more aggressive. Cat got in the paint more to start off. I think his first 7 shots were in the paint, getting to the lane. And then once he got into a groove, he kind of moved back to the 3-point line and found success there and was 4 or 5. And then Anthony Edwards was able to find his spot a little bit better than the previous 3 games. So we'll see what the adjustment is and the counter is for both of those teams. We'll talk about that coming up a little bit later on the show. But let's go behind the burnt orange curtain. Next segment, we got to talk some Texas football. CDC already glib, talking a little trash to the SEC folks already. He's on the Power Football Fine Bump show. Talked a little trash. We'll play that audio. We'll come back. We'll get into that. We'll also talk about what – it's not unprecedented, but it is extremely rare in the recruiting world to be able to get 3 5-star players at the same position in the same recruiting class. It's happened on the 40 acres before. It's happened a few times in the modern era of recruiting. But hell, 5-stars themselves are rare. It's only like 35 to 45 stars in the entire country every year, even fewer than that now, because I think they've kind of narrowed it down to 32. But at one point, it was a little bit more than that. Now they've narrowed it down to 32 a lot of the times. But there are reports that Texas is the front runner to get 3 5-star receivers in the same class. That it's rare. I wouldn't track it since 2000, how rare it is. I'll tell you the teams that were able to do it. We'll get into that on the other side. We'll also hear CDC talking a little trash, and Sark happy that he's renewed some rivalries for Texas going into the SEC. He's got that opportunity. So we'll hear from Steve Sarkisian as well. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let's talk about Callahan's General Store because they're a one-stop shop for all things that you need in regards to making sure that your yard and your lawn are top-notch and the experience that you have actually outside enjoying your lawn and your yard are top-notch. We had Charlie Wilson on from Callahan's General Store yesterday, and he talked about something that has been bugging me, actually, no pun intended, all the bugs outside when you go outside in the backyard now because of all the rain and the hot weather and spring weather. Perfect weather for bugs to enjoy themselves, and now they're enjoying themselves a little too much. So he said, if you want to make sure that you control the bugs and the insects, you can head on over to Callahan's General Store, and head on over to Callahan's General Store. They got plenty of items there that can keep your bugs under control there, so you can enjoy your outdoor living space. So you also can make sure that your yard is in that golf course condition. They have everything you need there: the soil, the fertilizer. They have the amendments. They have the Bermuda seed to fill in all the brown patches there as well. If you're starting to plant the gardens in your backyard or in your front, those garden beds, they got plenty of seedling vegetables for your garden beds, beautiful flowers for your garden beds there at Callahan's General Store. They got it all. It's a one-stop shop. And what I love more than the resources, because they have everything you need there, all the supplies you need there at Callahan's General Store to make sure your yard is in top-notch shape. But they have, the expertise, the know-how, the knowledge. That's why we have Charlie Wilson come on the show, the general manager of Callahan's General Store, and give you some tips and some of that knowledge, some of that that know-how on what to do and how to do it, and to make sure that your yard is in the best possible condition. So when you go there, not only do you need to get all the supplies and resources, but just ask them. The customer service there is fantastic. It is top notch. They will help you in any way that they can. They will talk to you about all of your issues, whether it be about your backyard or your front yard, growing some grass, the garden beds, whether you got a green thumb or not. Hey, the place for you is Callahan's General Store. One-stop shop, 501 Bastrop Highway, between downtown and the airport. Every day is a great day to make it a Callahan's day. All right, let's talk about rivalries renewed in the SEC. So Sark, basically, he was speaking to the media earlier this week at the spring meetings there in Destin, the SEC spring meetings in Destin, Florida. And he was talking about a lot of different things. Really didn't get into much football. Really, kind of talked about the macro issues happening with the changing landscape of college football. But he also talked about their first year in the SEC. It's not official until July, but of course, that's why they're there at the spring meetings, because they want to get themselves acclimated. I'm not even sure. Somebody should ask Sark, is he on the text chain? Remember, the SEC coaches have a text chain.
Well, didn't they
a group
say
chat.
the amount of coaches was with Sark and Venables in it, right?
I don't know if I don't know if I remember that. I remember he saying they do have one, but I don't remember them saying if the new members were already in it. I'm not sure about that because it's not official. It's not official till July.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they would have done it already because it's not official. Because we were talking to Javion Cole, actually, the cornerback who is committed now on campus now officially. Yesterday was his first day. He actually got on campus from San Jose State that Texas got via the transfer portal. And I was asking, hey, you talked to a lot of the DBs yet? I mean, you guys, start to talk and, have some conversations via social media or texting, whatever. And he said, no, I just got on the group chat like yesterday. Like they had just put him on the group chat.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just getting on there. He said, so, I'm just, I haven't even necessarily went to I'm assuming that he hadn't really answered the group chat yet. Instead, started talking to guys. So I don't know. Maybe it becomes official stuff like that when it becomes official. But I do know that there is a SEC coaches, group chat, group text. That's pretty cool. I would love to see. We should play a game one day and it's like what kind of text you would see on the group chat. To me, Lane Kiffin would probably obviously be the most inappropriate on the group chat. There's no doubt, or inappropriate, or definitely most active, randomly active.
I'm telling you, it's
there.
Just memes. Feels like it's just memes,
and they're random, and nobody answers the memes either.
No.
Like,
No.
Exactly.
But he just likes them himself.
Yeah. He laughs at his own memes. Just weird. All right, we'll get back to that. But Sark also talked about renewing rivalries, and he's excited about this. Remember, Sark's a big college football fan. He loves the pageantry and the tradition. And Texas getting a rivalry back with Arkansas, getting a rivalry back with A&M. We were talking about this yesterday. I mean, the Big 12, the Big 12 had a lot of. It just felt like every game was a trap game. A lot of trap games, right? It was always K-State, Oklahoma State, trap game, Iowa State, trap game. It's always trap games. And even though you don't have as many trap games, when Bobby Burton was talking about this, now you have big games. This is what I said. You replaced your trap games. Now you got more big games because rivalry games, all rivalry games are big games. And you got to play Georgia. And then you got your big games in the non-conference with Michigan. So, and then the SEC, you never know if a team is just good in the SEC. That's a big game because you're playing a really good team. So you replace a lot of the trap. There's still some trap game. I think Kentucky's your only real trap game this year, right? Is that you got it? Because a rivalry can't be a trap game.
Yeah, exactly.
Game. Yeah, it shouldn't take you by surprise.
Yeah.
The only trap game to me is Kentucky right now.
Yeah, probably. I mean, because if we say rivalries can't be trap games, that's 3 off the schedule.
Can't be.
And then Michigan can't be a trap game because it's Michigan. Georgia can't be because it's Georgia. So that's 5 games off your schedule.
And then the teams that are just highly, they're just much more inferior. You're just the Grand Canyon sized gap in talent between you and Colorado State or whatever. I mean, I can't call that a trap game, really.
No, because they're not traps. Yeah, they're the trap game that when you get there, you say it is because you're like, watch out. Because if you're undefeated, every game's a trap game.
Yeah, I guess so. But to me, a trap game is kind of a team that can beat you.
I agree. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think
that it close, maybe. Remember, Rice Hill, Wyoming made it close.
Exactly.
Texas for a while.
No, I'm saying, as a fan of the games, we'll sit there and then as it gets closer, you go, better watch out. Better watch out.
Yeah, just because you get nervous.
You get nervous. But I agree with you going into the season. If we say 5 games are off the table for being called trap games, then it lowers the amount that you can have, and then Kentucky probably be the one. Yeah.
Yeah, because Vanderbilt. I mean, I don't care what Vanderbilt is. I just don't see Vanderbilt being able to pull off the upset no matter what's going on. So I think Kentucky is, to me, a trap game is a team. Oh, no, if you're sleeping on them, they can beat you. And Kentucky's in a weird place. I think they're between Arkansas and A&M. So they're between your rivals. That screams trap. Like the Big 12 had a lot of trap. Tech was a trap game. K-State was a trap game. Iowa State trap game. Kansas is a trap game now, damn it. It's like trap game. It's like, it's a drop. It's like everywhere you go, it's Adam Blackbar. That's a drop. That's not really the SEC. It's very different, but that's why it's big boy football because it's big games everywhere. Everywhere you look, another big game. Here you got Georgia. Don't you got Georgia and Oklahoma basically back to back? You got a bye week in between, but you got Georgia then OU, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so, yes.
Big game. Yeah, you get slapped in the face with big games. Anyway, here's Steve Sarkisian talking about those big games and the rivalries and how he's excited about renewing some of those old school traditions.
I'm excited. I'll be honest with you. I've been part of some great rivalries in college football. And I know there was so much talk about realignment, and I know realignment looks different for every school. But for us, we gained 2 rivals back, right? We're playing Arkansas again, which is great for Texas Longhorn and Longhorn Nation. We get A&M back. And so you're talking about the game with A&M. You're talking about houses divided. You're talking about, decades of tremendous games in Thanksgiving weekend. And so to get that game back, I know we're looking forward to it. I'm sure A&M is too. I've got a ton of respect for Coach Elko. We competed against one another, when he was a defensive coordinator at A&M and I was an offensive coordinator at Alabama. And he got really good scheme, really good players. And I think he's going to do a really good job there.
All right, Dale Sark, he's excited about it. Yeah, more big games. All right, so let's get to this Paul Feinbaum audio of CDC on Paul Feinbaum. And I love how comfortable CDC seems already in the SEC. Comfortable and confident. He's already talking. And this is him talking about the Texas OU game. He's not necessarily bragging about Texas. He's talking about the Texas OU game, the pageantry of it, the spectacle of it, and comparing it to the best rivalries that are already in the SEC. And he's essentially implying that Texas OU is better than any of those rivalries in the SEC. Here's CDC on the Paul Feinbaum show.
Have you been to the Red River rivalry yet?
Many at the beginning of my career, I saw it.
It's ridiculous. It's the greatest thing ever. You may talk about the cocktail party, the Iron Bowl. It is nothing
I like where
this
this is
game
going. I think
at the state fair, because you had 300,000
I detected
people.
something there.
300,000 people outside. No, the Iron Bowl is awesome. Don't get me wrong. At night, it's great. Same with but the cocktail party. But this game, nuts too. You can't throw us a bone there, P-Dub. What's up, buddy?
Joe, the University of Texas is not even an official member yet of the SEC, and he's already throwing shade on the Iron Bowl. Iron Bowl.
No.
You'll be fine because we're not even allowed to call it the cocktail party.
When your callers come in losing their mind, I was not throwing shade. What I was saying, it is an unbelievable environment.
Oh, man.
So you're already throwing a little sauce on it for no reason.
Like, you've given me a gift.
This is not right.
Oh, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Come on now.
Come on.
All I was saying was it's an awesome game that you give. You know, you talk about it.
Oh man, yeah, he seems really comfortable already. But honestly, here's the real question though. If you're just looking at the state of the programs right now in the best rivalries in the SEC, honestly, Texas rivalries right now, Texas OU and Texas A&M, they're probably right now immediately first year in the SEC among the top 3 to 5 rivalries already. It depends on what you see as a rivalry. Some people don't acknowledge new school rivalries. So you have like a new rivalry. I do. I think they're great. I call them it rivalries. They just kind of start up for a little while, and then they fizzle out. You know what I mean? It's like a 4 or 5 year thing. The teams are really good. You got a quarterback that's really good or whatever, and then they fizzle out. But then there are some, of course, that are, they're old school rivalries, and they're essentially evergreen. They've been around forever. And that's, I think, whether you're talking about Texas and Oklahoma or you're talking about Texas A&M, which I think this year is going to be huge, especially if the Aggies are actually good. Right now, I think it'd be better than the Iron Bowl because I don't know how good Auburn's supposed to be.
Yeah, that game hasn't
Florida's
been.
not going to be very good this year, so that cocktail party ain't going to be very good, right? Is LSU Bama? I know Bama fans are like, that's not our rival, but LSU fans will think so. LSU Bama, that's.
I think Alabama Tennessee is a little bit of a win too. If you want, Alabama everybody has won, but.
Yeah, you're right. Alabama's like that now. Everybody believes it. That's true. It's a bunch of those. But if you look at like the Egg Bowl, Mississippi State's not supposed to be good, right? Ole Miss is supposed to be really good, but not Mississippi State. So I'm just saying, if you're looking at it right now, this year, those are probably, especially if the Aggies are good. And we don't know how good Oklahoma's going to be because they lost a lot. But man, those could be 2 of your top rivalries. I don't know what's going to be the best rivalry in the SEC this year. Because I think it could be one of those Texas rivals, but I don't know how. Like I said, I don't think the other programs in the elite rivalries, the Cocktail Party and Iron Bowl, I don't know if the Auburn program, I don't know if Florida's going to be very good this year. So I don't know if those will be great games this specific year. Like this year, I think the Texas A&M game will be bigger as a spectacle, but not as a spectacle because you got the state fair, but bigger to the fans, like to the Texas fans and to the A&M fans. It'll be bigger to those fan bases than the Texas OU game is to those fan bases this year. Now, you can't beat the spectacle of Texas OU at the state fair. You can't beat that. Neutral, okay, you can't. I don't even know if even the cocktail party can beat that. And I think that's what CDC's talking about. But in terms of importance and relevance to the fans this year, that Texas A&M game rekindling is going. That's definitely for the Aggies. That's the biggest game for them.
And two, it's the biggest thing that hurts Texas OU is its placement in the season.
Yeah,
is that it's a type of game that either team can lose and still make it. Like you can still do things even if you lose that game.
That's true.
So I think that its placement in the season is what hurts it the most of making it this epic rivalry. However, Texas A&M has that again this year, is they're playing at the end of the season. So you put that back into that category of a rivalry that either team can destroy the other team's season with a big upset because it knocks you out of wherever you're supposed to be.
Love that. Totally agree with you on that. Totally agree. Okay. You know what? I could do this in what the facts, what the stats. I'll get into how tough it is and how rare it is to get 3 5-star players at the same position in the same recruiting class, because Texas apparently has a chance to do that with 3 5-star receivers. We'll do that in what the facts, what the stats, because I actually been doing some research on it. We come back though, we got the topic for the big fat poll of the day, and we'll learn what the musically themed day of the week is. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn.
Hey, I want to tell you about our friends at Texan Windows. They are your new and replacement window experts in Central Texas. You can discover affordable windows and sliding glass doors. If you're looking to up your curb appeal of your home, just want to make it look a little bit better to yourself, you can do that at Texan Windows. Change the operation of windows. You can remove grids in the glass if you don't like the way those look, and you can even get some obscured glass for privacy. And don't forget, they also do sliding glass doors. So if you're starting to use that backyard a little bit more and your sliding glass door is not up to snuff, hit up our friends at Texan Windows. But the looks, not the only thing that you find out with Texan Windows.
Yeah, so many advantages to getting brand new windows from Texan Windows, and one of them is that the energy efficient windows you can get from Texan Windows will save you money annually on your energy bills. Now, all their windows come with argon-filled double pane low E glass that's going to keep your house cool during those hot Texas summer days, which are fast approaching. It's going to keep your house warm during the winter months as well. It doesn't matter what type of windows you're getting: replacement windows, construction windows, vinyl windows, wood windows, the thermal break aluminum windows, sliding patio doors, as Patrick mentioned. Doesn't matter what kind you're getting, you're going to get those energy efficient windows that are going to make sure that you save on your energy bills. And trust me, I'm a ball on the budget. I'm all about saving more money. What you could do with that extra money, think about that as a long-term investment with Texan Windows. Also, a long-term investment in the safety of your family. Right now, I got an 8-month-old in the house, so we're child-proofing everything. If you got old windows, it can be really tough to child-proof those windows. You want to make sure that all of your windows are up to date in terms of the safety protocols and the latest safety technology. That's what my friends at Texan Windows can do for you as well. So Patrick will give you all the information you need to reach out to our friends at Texan Windows. So many different reasons to do it and so many advantages to reaching out to Texan Windows and getting brand new windows.
So get started at TexanWindows.com or call 855-55-TEXAN. Get a hassle-free estimate by email or phone, whatever's easier for you. Or you can stop by their new showroom in Buda or Fort Worth and check out what they got in stock. That's TexanWindows.com. Texan Windows, your Central Texas replacement window experts. Back on the Rodcast here on a Thursday morning, which means it's a new theme Thursday here on the show, where I'll pick a different theme every Thursday and play some music based on that theme. And since we were playing Run DMC yesterday, I got into listening to some old school hip hop, and then I decided to go further back than Run DMC into the beginnings of hip hop. And today's theme is some of the biggest hits from the beginnings of hip hop here in America. And so starting it out with some Planet Rock. Some early stuff there in the beginning.
So the theme is the origins of hip hop.
Yes, basically very early hip hop hits.
I like that. All right,
where we're going with the theme of the day. Since we did some DMC yesterday, I thought we'd keep it kind of rolling into a Thursday.
I like it. I can't wait to see where you go with this too. What you consider the early stages.
The early stages.
Are you going with the most like impactful artists? Or are we just talking?
Yeah, pretty. I mean, some iconic stuff, and because it was. I was doing it originally, and then it got too far into what cutoff of the '80s are you into, and then it was like, okay, if you go '85, and then it was too much. There was too much stuff of it kind of expanded out. By the time you got to like '88, it's just everywhere, and so then 89 is Public Enemy, and 88, 89 is like Public. So you start to get more and more into it. So I went and said, let's go further back so we can kind of identify it down to the 5 to 7 songs we get to play. Because otherwise it's too much and you can't fit it all in. So we'll go into this. We're getting that.
Okay.
Let's get to Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day, though. Text line's open 512-447-3776.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day on the Horn.
All right, Big Fat Poll of the day today. We just talked about the rivalries being renewed. Sark talked about it. And so, Rod mentioned a little bit, the modern rivalries, the little secondary rivalries. So not your main ones. So Texas has OU, Texas has Texas A&M, Texas has Arkansas. But I'm curious, which SEC school are you hoping to form a secondary rivalry with the most? So think of it as your Texas Techs.
Yeah,
and that's
second-tier rivals.
That second-tier rival that is right behind the ones you'll be playing with, the ones you say, man, that the fan base, get with them and start to feel this is a second-tier rivalry that we can really go into. I think one of your easy ones is LSU.
Yeah, just because you're a border state.
Is because you're a border state? Because I think know a lot. There's a lot of people that have gone between the two states. They're both good places to come. They're like both
recruiting battles.
Both recruiting battles. Both also good places to you can go to a game. Tailgates will be good. The food will be good. Drinks will be good at both those places.
You're right about that.
So I think that'll be one of them. But you could say, all right, let's go against the big giants. It could be Alabama or Georgia. You say, no, I want to make this a big time rivalry every single year. That every time or every other year when we play, I want to go against those guys because we want to go against the big dogs. It could be Ole Miss. You say Ole Miss, at least as far as Lane Kiffin being there. Lane Kiffin and Stark's history together.
That's true.
You could throw that one in there. It could be Tennessee. You got Rick Barnes over there as far as basketball, and it is UT versus UT. I think there's several schools in the SEC that Texas could find in that second-tier rivalry. So I want to know what you guys think on the text line. If we can get a consensus of what team do you think it's going to be, or what team do you want it to be that you'd like to make?
Yeah, cause I know some people, and that's the thing about the SEC's got to fix this. They got to fix how often you play, the rotation of teams that you play. What used to be, the Eastern Division or whatever, and the Western Division. They got to fix that. They got to fix how often. I mean, Georgia doesn't play A&M very often. I don't even know if they in conference play how often they've played the Aggies since the Aggies have been there. It's rare. I didn't know that because I can't really remember it off the top of my head. They got to fix that. I don't know what the formula is for when you play the Eastern and the Western side. I don't know what the formula is right now, or if they've changed it. They got to fix that. They got to do something about that, in my opinion, because Texas playing Georgia in back-to-back years. Hell, Texas may play Georgia. Texas may have played Georgia, and they're going to play them back-to-back years this year and then next year. That'll probably be as many times the Aggies have played them since the Aggies have been in the SEC. Right, because the Aggies have not played Georgia a lot.
No, and I mean they're gonna have
fix
to
that.
They're gonna
you can have a rivalry with Tennessee, and you can go UT versus UT.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can't do that if I don't play y'all. But every 5 to 6, 7 years,
I agree.
It's not gonna be a rivalry.
So that's the one, and that's the one. But that kind of goes into what we're saying is, where do you want it to go? If you were the one planning and saying the team that we could kind of throw in that we know we get to play them a little bit more because we're not playing LSU this year.
No,
But that would be one of the teams I think would be in there because it's a border state. It's a closer team that you would be able to get into that one. I think UT is definitely one of those.
Yeah,
and I mean, so I mean, and then it kind of goes between Bama, Ole Miss, Georgia. Those schools I think would be the other three that would fit in there. That all have their own narratives and their own reasons why you'd want to be in.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. It could be. The LSU one does make a lot of sense. But that's a hell of a program to pick as another rival.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. I think they all are. I don't think
man.
there's one that I don't think we're going out. Texas fans don't seem like the one that want to pick a fight with Vanderbilt.
No. The thing about rivals, and I've always said this about rivals, everybody wants to outkick their coverage with their rival. That's why, LSU doesn't want to consider A&M a rival.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we're way better than A&M. You want your rival. Ultimately, even though you trash them, you talk a lot of noise and you take shots at them all the time. That level of respect that you have for your rival, you want your rival to be, like I said, on your level, if not considered better. Everybody would like to outkick their coverage with their rival.
Yes.
And that's why Texas, even though yes, the Aggies are a rival, they're the side piece for Texas. Like, nah, you're our side piece. No. Oklahoma's our real rival. Why? Because Oklahoma's one of the greatest football programs in the history of college football. So Texas is like, yeah, you're worthy of being our rival. All right. Yeah, we'll let you be our rival. And that's why you often see them trying to manufacture these rivals and fan bases rejecting it. Like LSU, like they try to manufacture A&M, LSU rival. LSU fans like, hell no. Alabama's our rival. The great Alabama, that's who we are. We're on par with. That's our rival, not A&M, because they look down on A&M. Nobody wants to look down on their rival.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're a side piece. And that's how Texas sees A&M, and A&M knows that, by the way. And A&M doesn't want to be a side piece anymore. Like, I don't want to be a side piece. I want to be a main rival. A&M, part of their, the psychology that's so strange with the Aggies is they don't have a main rival. So it's not just little brother syndrome. No, it's also side piece syndrome.
No, exactly.
They've been the side piece for Texas since Texas and Oklahoma have become the main rival, and you'll admit that'll drive any woman insane. Just being the side piece, all right, and then never being able to be the main thing. That'll drive any woman insane. That's what the Aggies are right now, and they act like a crazy side piece sometimes. And I understand why, because they've been driven crazy by the locals. Locals like, yeah, you're our side piece rival, but you're not our main rival. And they're like, hold up, we just want to be somebody's main rival. And they want to be LSU's main rival. LSU's like, hell no, you're not our main rival. You can be our side piece, but we got Alabama's our main rival. Nobody wants to be the Aggies' rival. They got to find somebody on their level, but then it can't be Mississippi State because they're like, then the Aggies are like, no, we're better than Mississippi State. No. So it's got to be like Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is, it's weird. I don't know. That's part of being an Aggie right now, and I think it's part of their identity crisis. By the way, I am sympathizing. I'm not trying to talk trash on the Aggies. It's just me.
No, remember, that A&M tried to start the thing with Alabama because they beat him with Johnny Manziel, and then they spent 7-8 years trying to be like, remember we beat you? And they're like, we don't care anymore. We've won national championships. It's in the past, man. We don't care.
Exactly right.
Now we're playing you again. Remember Johnny? And we're like, Johnny's out of the NFL. You can't keep bringing him up.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying, man. They're trying, but it's tough. And I sympathize with the Aggies sometimes. Okay, let's get back to it. We'll come back to that question. I like that. Who's going to be the second tier rival for Texas? Because now they got all their main rivals back. Who's going to be on that second tier? Could be that kind of rivalry for the moment. All right, that kind of rivalry, which may not last. It may not be a long-standing one, but just for kind of the time being. All right, so we'll get back to that. The topic for the Big Fat Poll today. We come back, we'll get into roster rankings. There's some roster rankings in the NFL from Pro Football Focus. We'll see where the Texans and where the Cowboys are. Also, we'll get into a Raj rant of the day. There's an old school concept that may be making its way back into football. We'll talk about that as well. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday for the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the Idealionaire, Patrick Davis, he plays a jam, basically plays jams that are supposed to have a theme to them on a new theme Thursday. And the theme here is Origins of Hip Hop, right?
Yes.
Origins of
Yes.
Hip Hop is the theme. Oh, man. Grandmaster Flash, right?
Grandmaster
Funk, is
Flash
it?
and the Furious
The
Five.
Furious Five, yeah.
Yes.
Dang. Wow. Yeah, that beat though has been, I mean, that I want to say this beat, there's like 4 or 5 jams that have also ended up being hits later on. They just used this jam. Puff P. Diddy did it with a jam.
We don't mention him anymore though.
No, we don't. Right. Did you see that Rolling Stones expose?
I did.
On P. Diddy?
No, I saw that it came out, but I don't know.
Ooh, I haven't read it either. I've just seen snippets. I got it bookmarked. I want to go back and read it. Well, actually don't, but I'm gonna go back and read it. I don't want to read it. But yeah, that PD stuff is it's not good. Some of the details that have come out.
Not
And the
good.
video came out of him dragging
Yeah,
the
not good.
young lady in like the hotel like hallway.
Yeah, not good.
Oh,
Not good.
yes, not good, not good. Anyway, yes, place got rated. His place got rated, and they haven't done anything to P Diddy yet. So I assume something else is gonna drop. Remember the feds raided his homes, but then he just kind of walked away, and then everything was all good. So I'm assuming something may be coming for P Diddy. Anyway, he used it. Remember, Ice Cube used that beat too. Was it Check Yourself? Better check yourself.
I think so.
Whatever
Yeah.
that was. Yeah. So there you go. I like this theme, the origins of hip hop. It's a good one for my man Patrick Davis. We appreciate it. Also, I like the topics for the big fat poll of the day, which will get posted. But Patrick, let people know what the topic is for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day. Which SEC school are you hoping to form a secondary rivalry with the most? So that second tier rivalry, you've got your ones that, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas A&M that are going to be your main rivalries. Those are the ones you're playing in the SEC. The way they're setting it up, that was the 3 that you're supposed to be playing every year, and so those are your main. But there's some other good schools out there.
No, you're right about that.
And I think like part of it too is, it's who do you know that lives in Austin that roots for the team, because we used to have a lot more of that in the Big 12 because we had, they're Texas schools. So people just moved. So people went to a school in Fort Worth and then came to Austin, or we know a ton of people that went to Texas Tech. That's kind of what kind of kept that rivalry more spicy in Austin was you just knew people that would root for the Red Raiders. So what school do you know people from here in town that you'd say,
LSU.
well, and that's LSU. I think the easiest answer is, the most people from that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think there another SEC school where there are a lot of those folks in Texas, but LSU is definitely the one with the most. Because in Houston, oh man, I'm from Houston. There's a bunch of LSU folks in H-Town. Bunch of LSU people there. Yeah, I'm trying to think. That's a good question too. Yeah, that's why it made it the second tier rivals in the Big 12. It made them more intense because you were around them all the time. Baylor's talking trash, Texas Tech talking a little trash, and no Oklahoma's fans are Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State, the state is close. So you can get some of those fans. Every now and then K-State, you got some K-State folks around here close in the state of Texas. Yeah, I don't know how many of the folks in SEC country have moved to the state of Texas. Because even in our neighborhood, I see LSU flags actually.
Yeah,
in the neighborhood that we have, I see a couple of LSU flags.
And I know a lot of Alabama people, but that's just because I know a group of people that moved from out. So like I know them, but I don't think that's as big in Austin as just I know those people.
There are a lot of SEC watch parties. Like groups that get together, and they get together, like fan groups that get together in Austin who watch SEC games. I know this because I've been around them, and they like randomly, and I'm like, oh no, why are these damn Ole Miss fans around me somewhere? Because they get together. So I bet now that Texas is in the SEC, you'll see an uptick of those types of fan groups and then we'll be able to kind of, I think, get a better, more accurate, I think a more accurate assessment of how many SEC fans are actually in the state. Because when Texas plays, that's where you're like, damn, I did not. There's a lot of folks who are watching this game and making a big deal out of it. And of course, we'll know it because I'm sure they'll be checking us out here on the Horn. So, all right, there you go. Who do you want to be that second tier rival for Texas outside of the big three, obviously? Okay, let's get to the Horn headlines. Let's get updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories of the day. And then we'll get to the Pro Football Focus roster rankings. Do they have the Cowboys with a better roster or the Texans with a better roster? We'll get into that and talk about that on the other side. Also, got to give some love to my man, CJ Stroud. Matter of fact, he's getting some love, and they actually may help him. And I'll tell you why that is the case. Help his legacy already as a young QB in the NFL. But first, let's get updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas softball begins their run in Oklahoma City tonight in the Women's College World Series against Stanford. This is Texas' 7th all-time appearance in the College World Series, the Women's College World Series, and they are facing a Cardinal program who they split the 2 matchups with. They faced each other this season. In the NBA, the Mavericks will take on the Timberwolves back in Minnesota tonight in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. The Mavs will hope Derek Lively, who has been upgraded to questionable, will be able to return after leaving Game 3 when he was hit with a knee in the back of the head. Lively is 13 for 13 in the West Finals and has the Mavs' best plus-minus of the postseason at plus 109. In Major League Baseball, the Astros dropped their 3rd straight game to the division-leading Mariners 2-1 in the 10th inning yesterday. The Astros will look to salvage a game in the series today. And the Rangers took care of their opponent from last year's World Series as they beat the Diamondbacks 6-1, with Corey Seager hitting his 8th home run in his 8th straight game, sparking the Rangers hitting. The Rangers are off today before starting a series with the Marlins on Friday. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, Patrick, thank you for the Horn headlines. We appreciate those. All right, we'll get back to some Texas conversation. We were talking about CDC at the SEC spring meetings. We'll get back to that sound. Sark talking about renewing the rivalries. Also, what the facts, what the stats. There's a chance it's going to be a Texas recruiting. It's kind of going to be a Texas recruiting focus. What the facts, what the stats. Because I went and looked at in the last 25 years, the modern era of recruiting, basically the internet age and since the internet age, when a program is able to get 3 5-star players at the same position in the same class and how rare it is. Because that right now is the scuttlebutt, is that Texas is going to get 3 5-star receivers in this class. They could. DeCorian Moore, Khalil Lockett, and Jamie French.
Yeah.
He's the one from Florida. The other 2 are from Texas. But right now, Texas is a leader to get all 3 of those guys. And the belief was that, once Texas is a front runner for at least 2 of them, then one of the guys will back out and someone else will become the front runner. Texas will just be in the top 5, but that's not the case. All right, for all 3 of them, I believe right now Texas is predicted to be the front runner or predicted to get the commitment of all 3. Now, will that happen? I don't know. I don't know the likelihood of it, but right now that's where it's trending. So watch trending. We'll discuss it, and I'll give you the history of that. So we'll do that in what the facts, what the stats. Don't go anywhere. If we need to push Rod's rant to next segment, we'll do that. If not, we'll get into a CBS Sports ranking of the top 150 players in college football. But I want to get into this Pro Football Focus roster rankings, because they ranked every roster. I really wanted to see where the Cowboys and the Texans are ranked. So I thought to myself, I wonder whether they had the Texans or the Cowboys ranked higher in the roster. Who would you have ranked higher as a better roster right now, Patrick? Texans or the Cowboys?
Probably the Cowboys.
I know it's pretty close.
Just because of the record of last season and everything, I have to really go position by position at this point, because I think it's a little bit closer than it was. But yeah, I'd probably still say the Cowboys.
Yeah, no, I initially, because the Cowboys had 9 All-Pros. That's it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know they had
any team in the league. Yeah, so that's what I would do. I would assume that and I would say I wanted to see what Pro Football Focus had. They have the Texans, and I'll give you the list in a second. I'm going to start with the Cowboys and the Texans. That's what y'all care most about. They got the Texans 7th. Got the Cowboys 9th on this list. And I'm kind of with you. I think if somebody just asked me off top, I'd have been like, Cowboys slightly because they have more top end guys.
Yeah.
All pros. I mean, like I said, they had more all pros than anybody else in the league last year. So I said they got more top end guys. Depth wise, hell, the Texans might have in terms of depth because hell, the Cowboys got the worst running back room in the NFL. So maybe depth, and we don't even know who the third wide receiver is going to be. Like depth wise, Texas may have depth.
Yeah.
The front end, like top end talent.
I mean, they had 2 players in Defensive Player of the Year voting last year.
That's what I'm saying. So maybe they're looking at depth. I say depth is the only way you could justify it because I'm with you, Patrick. I think top end talent Cowboys are a more talented team overall, and the accolades would back both of us up on that. But like I said, right now they have the Texans, and here's basically I'll give you the justification. They got the Texans 7th on the list of most talented rosters. They said biggest strength is wide receiver, biggest weakness is offensive line, which I think they're pretty deep on the O-line. They've invested a ton in that offensive line, but they said that's the biggest weakness. And they're going off their Pro Football Focus scores. I won't read it to you and bore you half to death. Their X factor, they say here Stingley, which both of us agreed on, because if you got to pay him top corner money next year, that is a beautiful problem to have.
Yes,
that's a great. I mean, because that means he's performing like a top corner.
Yes,
and right now he's not. It said he's not a bust or anything like that. He actually played really good last year. Is he outperforming his draft status yet? I'm not sure.
No, and he kind of got hurt in the fact that Sauce got drafted in that same draft right after him.
Yes.
Because if you have a guy who looks like he may be a generational talent that went right after you at the same position, then it's going to make anything you do look less than, even though you can still have you can be playing very well.
I totally agree with that. They have the over under here. Damn, I would take this over all the time. At 9.5 win totals. That's easy. I would take that over all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. I think you got them with 11 wins.
Yeah.
I think I was like at 10, but I still would take the over because I think they're going to be a good team this year. Except for that stretch at the end of the season, which is just an hellacious stretch. They got to play with the Ravens. They'll play Kansas City in that stretch too.
Yeah.
It's like 3 games in?
It's 3 games in 10 days, like 12, but they're all really good teams that are like important for playoff seeding.
Is it Miami in that stretch?
Yes.
Somebody else is in that stretch.
It's Miami. You're right.
Yeah. Oh, it's just brutal. Anyway, so I'm a little surprised. I'm with you on that. Here's the top 10. I think it's depth. I think depth of the the depth of the Cowboys, I will admit, is a question mark. Who's gonna be the third wide receiver? Running back room, they ain't got a lot of depth. Offensive line, you just lost your damn center. All right, and you lost your left tackle. Who's gonna replace them? Even though you drafted those guys, that's depth. Depth at linebacker has been an issue because of all the injuries. Drafted a tight end in the 2nd round, but he's been hurt. What about the interior D line? You lost Hankins, but we don't know if Mozzie Smith's gonna work out. So it's all depth questions with the Cowboys. Everything's about depth. The Texans. Really no depth concerns. They got a lot of depth. Even on the O-line, they say it's the weakest. I'm like, O-line, they're deep.
Yeah, the O-line, there's I get where people think there are more issues, but I think that injury part hurt what it was. We don't even know fully what that O-line is going to be able to do as a single piece because they just haven't played together a ton. But yeah, I think that's a little bit overstated because I've seen both of it said. I've seen where they have a really good O-line. I've seen where they have an awful O-line. But I'm not buying into the awful O-line just yet. I think, and I think too, there was like some times where they went, well, his grade went down, and you go, well, he's blocking next to a guy who started playing football 8 minutes ago. Like this guy shouldn't be in the NFL, and who's playing next to him. He's a practice squad guy. He's playing next to him. His stats are going to go down because he can't. He's trying to get the best player every time, and they're coming over, and he's trying to help out, but get his own guy. The numbers are going to go down.
I totally agree with that because the offensive line works as a unit more so than any group or position group on the field. So I'm with you. I mean, by the way, the Texans had the most adjusted games lost to injury on the O-line in the last 20 years. Guys, they had the most injured O-line in the NFL in the last 20 years. That group was a mash unit. So I don't know. I'm with Patrick on that. I think they were inconsistent mostly because all the different pieces that they were rotating in and out of that group because of the injuries. Okay, so here's you want to try to guess who they say is the top roster, the most talented roster in the NFL overall?
Oof.
I mean, this is probably pretty easy. I say it's easy, but it is easy. I think it's easy because this is a group that, and this is post draft too.
Are we saying it's the Eagles? Are they? Because we always say they have a really good draft, and they always have that good.
They have the Eagles third, so they're high on the Eagles third. They got the Eagles third. So think about two teams they think are more talented than the Eagles. The Eagles are with you. High relevant keeps it stacked.
Yeah.
All right. Give me the
49ers.
Yep, they're number one.
Okay, 49ers. That makes sense.
There you go.
Stacked team. I don't know who the other one is. I'll tell you.
Remember post draft? They got Kansas City post draft. That's the
come on. Team. That's ridiculous.
I'm with you. I don't think they are. I don't think they are. I think I would put like 4 teams. I'd put Philadelphia in terms of just overall talent, the entire roster. I think Philadelphia is there. They got the Jets at 4. I don't know if the Jets are. I don't like the Jets O-line, honestly.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think Ravens may be.
Yeah, if the Texans are dropping, if the Texans are dropping because their O-line, the Jets should drop because of their O-line.
Exactly. I'm like the Jets O-line is terrible. They got the Ravens. They got Ravens at 5. Ravens are one of those things now with Derrick Henry. You put in that conversation because he should boost whatever rating they have.
Yeah,
overall.
Finally started to work on that wide receiver core. You have likely step up in that tight end. So now you have 2 tight ends that you can throw the ball to, and him and Mark Andrews.
That's scary, man.
And then you always got a defense there. I mean,
you always got a D. Yeah, I'm with you. That's a scary group. They got the Lions at number 6, and the Lions are really. They are a really talented team, and they've been stockpiling. I think people have been sleeping on Brad Holmes. I talk about this all the time. Who's the GM of the Detroit Lions and how he stacked that team. He's just got a different mentality. He doesn't care, and he's openly said this. He doesn't care about premium positions. He doesn't care about the trends of the NFL and why they're paying certain positions more money than others, and why at least the overall kind of thought process about the draft is draft premium positions really high in the draft. Use your draft capital on premium positions that you would have to pay the most money to in free agency, that you have to pay the most money to, if they were up for a contract extension. And he doesn't operate that way. He openly kind of mocks that and says, no, I'm just going to draft the best football players. I'm going to watch film.
Yeah.
And I watch film. That guy's the best football player for this draft spot. I'm drafting that guy. That's why he's drafted like linebackers and tight ends, running backs, safeties really high in the draft, which are usually non-premium positions. But how about this? 21.7% of the Lions draft picks have become Pro Bowlers under Brad Holmes. The Lions have drafted 4 Pro Bowlers in the first round over the last 5 NFL drafts, the most in the NFL. The Lions have drafted 7 Pro Bowlers in any round over the last 5 NFL drafts. Only the Cowboys have drafted more over all their rounds in the draft. And the Lions have also drafted a Pro Bowler in the first round in 3 straight drafts. And the Lions have selected a Pro Bowler in 7 straight NFL drafts. That is the longest active streak in the league. So Brad Holmes, yes, it's an unorthodox belief system that he has about talent acquisition in the draft, but it works. And that's why they're one of the most talented teams in the league, because he doesn't operate the same way everybody else does. Okay, continuing here with the list of the teams here. We talked about the Cowboys. The Cowboys also on this list, the Cowboys are 9th on the list. The Texans are 7th, right behind the Detroit Lions. Sandwiched in between the Cowboys and the Texans, you have the Cincinnati Bengals at 8.
Which seems about right. That seems about right, of a team that clearly has some really good top-end talent, but maybe lacking a little bit in depth.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm with you on that. These I would have switched. He's got the Buffalo Bills at 10, and let me see, the Pro Football Focus does, and the Miami Dolphins at 11. Oh, Miami.
Both those teams lost a lot of people this offseason.
That's true.
Both those teams kind of had to. I think both those teams had a window that they really felt was last year, and really thought they should have been better last year. And both had to, renegotiate and replan what they were going to do as a franchise. But yeah, I think both those. Those are both teams too. I have to say, I have to go through those rosters and really look at who's still on them and who's gone, and who they got to replace guys with, because I know they both had several players leave. I mean, look, Keon Coleman, we all like it wide receiver for Buffalo, but is that how many other wide receivers in Buffalo can you name right now?
No, I think that's going to be one of their big issues. I'm with you on that 100%. Totally agree with you. At 12, they had the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns are a really talented squad.
Especially defensively.
Yes, they are loaded, man. They are. And Deshaun Watson ever returns to form. Yeah, the NFL should be afraid, very afraid. If he ever, I don't know if he ever will, but if he returns to form, they could be scary. They got Green Bay here at 13th, most talented roster. And then to round the top 15, they got the Rams at 14, and they have the Atlanta Falcons at 15. The other Falcons might be a little bit higher because the Falcons got, on offense at least, I mean, Kirk Cousins, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Rondale Moore. I guess a lot of this is upside too, though.
Yeah,
they haven't really been productive yet. It's just the upside.
Well, I mean, we can say why Bijan wasn't productive is he wasn't in the game, and
Arthur Smith is why he wasn't productive. No, I agree. I don't know what the hell Arthur Smith, who's now the OC for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought he was going to actually be. I know he was going to work it as a head coach, but I thought at least as an offensive mind, he would weaponize all of those different, players and the skill sets. He did not at all. He's one of those guys that was too smart for his own damn good. It's like, no, simple. Give it to Bijan. Quit trying to overthink it. I'm going to use him as a decoy first. Like, no, just give him the football. What are you doing?
Call Tom Herman and ask him why he got fired.
Exactly. He was like, no, he's too young. It was like, but he's better than everybody else out there. Just give him the football, man. All right. Football is a simple game that is complicated by simple men. Just give him the damn football. All right. We're up against it. So we'll push Raj Rant to next segment. We're going to give CJ Stroud his props. But I'm not me. All right. I'm a Texans fan. I give him props all the time, but he's going to get his props from the Pro Football Writers Association. This is an award that I think could help him win the MVP award, and I'll explain that on the other side. We'll talk about that, all that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into Rod's rant of the day. A couple of things I want to get into here. First, I want to talk about CJ Stroud. I saw this under the radar story, but I think it's worth bringing up because it may end up being very impactful in CJ Stroud's MVP campaign in the future. So CJ Stroud was selected as the Pro Football Writers Association 2024 Good Guy. He won their 2024 Good Guy Award. It's given to an NFL player for his qualities and professional style in helping pro football writers do their job. The award has been presented annually since 2005. And it's really interesting. So if you look at the guys who have won it in the past, recently, Jason Kelsey won it last year. Cameron Hayward won it in 2022. Phillip Rivers won it in 2021. Eli Manning won it in 2020. Chris Long won it 2 years in a row. Larry Fitzgerald won it in 2017. Thomas Davis in 2016. Richard Sherman 2015. Russell Wilson 2014. Aaron Rodgers, Tony Gonzalez in 2013, Tim Tebow won it in 2012. I was surprised that Aaron Rodgers actually won it in 2011 because I don't know if Aaron Rodgers and the media get along. Drew Brees in 2010, 2009 it was Kurt Warner, 2008 Brett Favre, 2007 LaDainian Tomlinson, and 2006 Tiki Barber, 2005 Jerome Bettis. You know what I noticed about this list? How many of these guys work in media?
That's true.
Think about it. Jason Kelsey's about to start doing it. He's been offered a ton. Who else? Chris Long has been working in media. Larry Fitzgerald worked in media. Richard Sherman worked in media. Tony Gonzalez worked in media. Tim Tebow. Didn't Drew Brees do something for a little while?
Yeah, he did that. He tried that one season and then was like, it wasn't for him, but he did it.
He tried it. Kurt Warner. I think LaDainian Tomlinson was in it.
Yeah, he was on NFL Network, I think.
He was. I know one of the barbers. I'm not sure if it was Tiki or Rondé, though. I'm not sure which one of them.
I think both of them did it some. Rondé, I think, did NFL, and Tiki did like the Today Show and stuff, right?
I think they both ended up doing different parts. And then Jerome Bettis. And Jerome Bettis did too. So I want to say like half of these guys, or more than half of them, end up working in media. We both have talked about CJ Stroud and Michael Parsons podcast, whatever they do. I'm not sure what it is. The it's the odd couple routine they got going on, which is really, really good. Talk about all types of stuff. It's really fun. They did a draft. I think they did a draft simulcast where they watched the draft and talked about it, which is really cool. I wouldn't doubt if CJ Stroud. You brought this up. Remember, it was one of your topics for the Big Fat Poll of the Day a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was about what athletes might you think could end up in media
broadcast. Yeah. I can't remember exactly what it was, but
I can't remember what it was either exactly. And I want to say CJ Stroud's name came up.
I'm sure it did because he has been doing that a ton. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just saying that obviously the Good Guy Award, you go look at the history of it, the Good Guy Award, a lot of these guys, at least half of them, end up working in media. So I'm starting out there as
I hope that's a long ways away.
Yes, of course. yeah. No doubt. No. Totally agree with that. But that's another trend that I noticed. Also, this is going to help him, guys, in his MVP campaign. There's no doubt this is going to help him because I don't know how many of the members of the Pro Football Writers Association are also some of the members of the Associated Press, but even if they're not all, there's not a lot of crossover. I'm sure there is some, but I don't know how much crossover there is with the Associated Press voters who vote for the NFL MVP with the Pro Football Writers Association. It's obviously a very big group, but at least they're in the same circles. All right, they're media, they're in the same circle, they're on the same side, and the media who are going to be at one point voting for MVP, they like CJ Stroud as a guy that helps them do their job, makes their job easier. And that I'm telling you, that matter of fact, we talked about the Hall of Fame. Isn't that always annoying in the Hall of Fame? The members of the media go, the media didn't like him. Like they didn't really like him as a guy. He wasn't really professional and courteous with them. So, it may take him a while to get into the Hall of Fame. You're like, really?
Yeah, just it's so stupid.
Exactly. Like just because he was rude, and discourteous, that's gonna knock him for what he did on the field. And like, yeah, pretty much. That's us.
So because because you feel he could not suck it up and do his job by talking to you. You're not going to suck it up and do your job.
Pretty much.
And somehow you have the high road in this.
Exactly.
Come on, y'all can't be petty like that, man.
Yeah, but so I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying it's going to help him if he can put himself in that MVP conversation and it's tight. CJ Stroud gets a lot of love from the media. And remember, I went and looked at the MVP. This is from Action Network, so it's not. I don't know how. This is not in the last 2 weeks. But this is recently the last month, but this is not in the last 2 weeks. So some things could have changed for all you bettors out there. But entering his second season, CJ Stroud was tied for third on FanDuel's MVP odds board at plus 1,000. He was tied with Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, the only two players ahead of him, I believe, were Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen in terms of odds to win the MVP. And I think Jordan Love and Justin Herbert were right behind Stroud at plus 1,400. But his plus 1,000, like I said, at the time this came out, his plus 1,000 to win the MVP award, if it holds at that, would be the shortest in the last 15 years for any first or second year player in the league. So he's got a good shot at it. He's got the talented roster. We talked about that last segment. Roster is talented. Wide receiving core is loaded. We talked about that a couple of days ago. Them signing Nico Collins to an extension and then trading for Stephon Diggs and then Tank Dell. They got a deep wide receiving core. They got Dalton Schultz. The running game should be better. We talked about the injuries on the offensive line. They should be a lot healthier there. It's everything right now is trending in the right direction for him to have a really good MVP case.
Yeah, I think we know though the MVP case is going to be really pushing that 3 weeks that 10-game.
Oh yeah,
because you're playing three major teams, or at least two other MVP candidates.
One who's already ranked, a couple of guys who've already won it.
A couple of guys already won it, and Lamar and Patrick Mahomes.
There ain't no better way to prove your case.
So if you play really well in that 3-game span right there, it's near the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So if you play, if you dominate on there, I think two of those games are on national television.
Yes. Oh yeah, you're right.
And so like that right there to me is you need to be in the running, and then that 10-game span, that's the CJ Stroud MVP run right there. That if he dominates in that, or just plays really well and they win 2 out of 3 or all 3 of those games, then all of a sudden he jumps up and his odds are huge because everyone will be paying attention to him right then. But that's what he says. That could also be he has a great first 10, 11 weeks. And then hits that patch, and it's a little rocky because the team is just beat up and they just don't play as well, and he drops back out. I mean, Brock Purdy was a favorite for MVP for most of the season last year, and then a couple rocky weeks, and he dropped precipitously out of the MVP race. And so I think for a young guy like that, you may not get the benefit of the doubt until your 4th or 5th season, where you can have a couple bad weeks near the end of the season. They'll still keep you in the rankings.
What hurt Brock Purdy too was Christian McCaffrey. When you have your own teammate also splitting your vote, that hurts you a lot too. But you're right. I remember when Brock Purdy at one point he had a strong case for it, and it fell off. And I think you're right. The good thing for CJ is that those games are late. So as long as you just stay in the conversation, you can just go. You can literally just go win as long as it's close.
Yeah,
you can go win that damn thing late. It's because I assume one of those quarterbacks you're gonna play is gonna be right there in the same conversation with either Lamar Jackson, if not both. Exactly. That's the beauty of that situation. That's the good part of it. The bad part of it is, that's a brutal stretch. 3 games in 10 days. And I don't know if there's a tougher three-game, 10-day stretch for any team in the league than what the Texans are going to deal with there. Something else. I brought this up the other day about CJ Stroud, and I saw this from Sharp Football, from Warren Sharp. So I want to add this to update the conversation. So I am predicting that CJ Stroud's going to see a lot more too high looks, like a lot more too deep safeties this season. Last season, the Texans were one of the top 5 teams in terms of how often they saw cover 3, how often teams played cover 3 against them. And I think they probably play cover 3 and a lot of cover 1 as well. I haven't seen the cover 1 number. I haven't seen the man coverage number, but they were top 5 in the NFL in how often they saw cover 3 from teams. And the reason they were doing that's because you dare a young quarterback to beat you, right? You're a young QB, you're improving yourself. I'll use my extra defender to stop the run and put a man in the box. Why would I use my extra defender to defend a quarterback that hasn't even proven that he can play in this damn league? I'm not going to do that. All right. Well, teams learn he can play in this league. They learned. They did the same thing with Patrick Mahomes. They did the same thing with Josh Allen. They did the same thing with Joe Burrow. It's kind of the natural progression. They test you. Like, they force you to prove to them that you can beat them with vertical NFL throws. You beat me with vertical NFL throws, throwing in tight windows in man coverage, throwing in tight windows when I got a middle field safety. All right, you know what? Then I will respect you enough to back up and give you 2 safety shell looks and keep an umbrella on my defense. Otherwise, I'm going to bring that other defender down and I'm going to play mind games. I'm going to blitz him. I'm going to put him in the box and stop the run. That's how I'm going to start off, to build my defensive game plan. And then what happens? CJ Stroud burns them like Joe Burrow did, like Patrick Mahomes did, like Josh Allen did as a young quarterback. And then the respect is they back the safety up and they force you to be a patient young quarterback. All right, now beat me just making the right decision every play. Beat me with the check. Are you patient enough to check it down? Are you patient enough to take the drag route, take the quick game? Are you patient enough to do that for 10, 11, 12, 13 plays down the field without making a crucial mistake? It was tough on Patrick Mahomes at first, but now he's figured it out, right? Now Patrick Mahomes' average touchdown pass is like 3.9 yards, right? His average depth of target is the lowest it's been in his career because now he's like, well, I'm going to take what the defense is giving me. I'm not going to take what I want, which is what a young quarterback likes to do. And we've seen that from Joe Burrow, Josh Allen at times. He'll still test it, but he understands now too, all right, I'll take what the defense is giving me. He's usually doing it with his legs rather than taking what I want because that's a fool's errand. And CJ Stroud's going to learn that too. And CJ Stroud, remember, by the way, over 11% of his plays last year were 20-plus yard plays. This guy loves taking shots vertical down the field. Second highest ADOT, average depth of target in the league with the lowest interception rate. How the hell do you do that as a rookie? Aggressive efficiency. So with that being said, teams are going, hell no, we're backing our safeties up now, and we're going to force that young CJ Stroud to make the right play every time to beat us with 10, 11, 12 play drives without making a crucial mistake, making sure that he executes, and then putting the pressure on all 11 guys to execute without a missed block or a missed assignment or, a bad route or a drop or human error kicking in, which is what Bill Walsh said. What kills drives is human error, which is why you want to eliminate that with an explosive play to turn what could have been a 12-play drive into a 5-play drive. Because 5 plays, the chances of a human error kicking you in the butt are less likely than a 12-play drive where there's a whole lot of opportunities for guys to screw it up.
Yeah,
so that's why you want explosive plays like that.
And they're putting, the game into other players' hands more than the quarterbacks because the quarterback hits one big play, then they made it up. But if you say, I need your running back and tight end to catch 8 passes in this drive, and they're not sure as short-handed as your wide receivers, then we got a better shot. You may make the best pass every single time, but those guys can screw it up for you.
Yeah, but the guard, he can't block that D tackle perfectly every damn time. And that is exactly right. It's about everybody doing their job perfectly every time. And that, ask Patrick Mahomes, that doesn't happen all the time. The wide receivers drop passes, that kind of stuff. So that's why you want to back those safeties up and force them to beat you with efficiency and repetition. Can you do it over and over again the right way? And usually somebody on their offense is going to screw it up. So that's what CJ Stroud's going to deal with this year. Then I found this stat. So he's going to see a lot of too high safety looks this year, which is why they want to up the running game. They want to go get an upgrade at running back with Joe Mixon because they're going to get favorable light boxes because they're going to take that defender out of the box and back him up deep. If you go look at the EPA, this comes from Warren Sharp. EPA is expected points at it. It's a deep dive stat that considers all the circumstances in the situational football rather than just first down, second down, and yards to gain. Most efficient quarterbacks based on EPA per attempt in 2023 versus too high looks, CJ Stroud number 1. So he's already the times when he does see those too high looks, he's already as efficient as any quarterback in the league. So that's a really good sign. So he's already used to being patient. But there is also something else, a little common theme here. So CJ Stroud's number 1. Brock Purdy's number 2. Jordan Love's number 3. Geno Smith's number 4, Tua's 5, Matthew Stafford 6, Joe Burrow 7. You starting to notice a pattern? What's the trend? What's the trend? McShanahan offenses. Most efficient quarterbacks based on EPA per attempt versus too high looks, which is taking over the league. CJ Stroud and the Bobby Slowick offense. Brock Purdy with Shanahan. Jordan Love with Matt LaFleur. Tua with Mike McDaniel. Matthew Stafford with Sean McVay. Joe Burrows in that Zach Taylor offense. McShanahan coaching tree has figured out how to get their quarterbacks to be aggressively efficient against too high show looks. 6 out of the top 7 quarterbacks versus too high shell looks are McShanahan coaches. That is not a coincidence, ladies and gentlemen. Not at all. All right, we come back. We'll tell you how rare it is to get 3 5-star players at the same position in the same recruiting class. It hadn't happened a lot, but Texas might do it in this 2025 recruiting class. We'll talk about that and more when we return right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? This is your Lifetime Longhorn, Rod Babers. Austin is a great city. We all know this. That's why people keep moving to Austin, making it one of the fastest growing cities in the country. And as the city continues to grow and thrive, so do our friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482. Many of the iconic landmarks that we love in this city were actually built and constructed by the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DKR Stadium. The folks over at Ironworkers Local 482 don't just go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting employment opportunity or a refreshing career change, or you want a new challenge, or you want to feel valued by your employer, you can become a valued member of this prestigious organization, Ironworkers Local 42. And right now they're hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project happening right here in Central Texas. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So become a member of Ironworkers Local 42 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that help shape the future of our great city. Maximize your potential today and be your best self. Simply go online and apply at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time for What the Facts, What the Stats. So I've been keeping up with this because there's a lot of scuttlebutt in the recruiting world that Texas could end up getting the commitment of 3 5-star receivers. DeCorian Moore. There are reports that Texas is the leader in the clubhouse for DeCorian Moore. Jamie French, the receiver from Florida, he told I believe this is on 3, that Texas is basically in the driver's seat, and he said his dream NIL deal is Lamborghini, to get a Lamborghini deal. We know there's already been a Lamborghini, deal, NIL deal done at Texas. I think there's a Lamborghini dealership in Austin too, but you can still get Lamborghinis everywhere through those kind of exotic car dealerships. But apparently, yeah, the Lamborghini may seal the deal for him. But Pete Nakos of On 3 said Texas is in the driver's seat for him. I believe several of the, I think, crystal ball predictions also are predicting Jamie French to the University of Texas. DeCorian Moore, it's down to 3 schools. LSU is in that conversation. Texas, Ohio State also is one of those schools. But several crystal ball predictions also have him going to Texas. But Kalik Lockett is the other one. Steve Wiltfong, he says his prediction is Kalik Lockett goes to Texas. Chad Simmons and Steve Wiltfong, both of those guys on 3, they're predicting Jamie French to Texas. So you just have all of these, these really, I would say, informed recruiting analysts and insiders who are predicting at least 2 of these guys are going to go to Texas. DeCorian Moore is the one you really hadn't seen a ton of predictions. I don't know if there's a lot of momentum, but for 2 of the 3, it looks like they're trending to go to Texas. If they get 3 5-star receivers, it wouldn't be the first time. I looked at 247 composite rankings of all their 5 stars since 2000. That's as far back as the information will let me go. And in 99 and 2000, Texas got 3 5-star receivers. BJ Johnson, Sloan Thomas, and Roy Williams. I think Roy Williams was rated the highest, then BJ, then Sloan. So some services may not have had Sloan as a 5-star, but composite rankings, they had him as a 5-star. In 2001, Tennessee got 3 running backs, 3 5-star running backs. In 2006, USC got 3 5-star running backs in the same class. In 2022, Alabama got 3 D linemen, like just 3 interior D linemen, D tackles. I don't know exactly how they're going to use them in the same class, 3 5-stars. And A&M in 23 actually got 3 D linemen in their class who were 5-star D linemen too, who are interior D tackles. That's it. Now, here's the thing about the A&M thing that's interesting. See, in 2000, Texas got 3 5-star receivers, and it made sense. You just had Chris Sims, who was the number 1 quarterback in the country coming at 99 class, the class I came in, and it was the number 1 class in the country. You had a Heisman season in 1998. So prior to that, 2 years prior to that, Texas had a ton of momentum. So, yeah, you had enough momentum where you can get 3 5-star receivers in the same class because they want to catch passes from, the celebrity quarterback, Chris Sims. Same thing can be true for the Longhorns here. Right, a lot of momentum. You got the cover of the video game. Arch Manning committed, so Arch Manning's a celebrity quarterback. Texas was in the Final Four last year for the first time in forever, competing for a championship. So there's just a lot of momentum right now for the program in this offseason. 2006, USC gets 3 running backs. Yeah, of course they did, because in 03, 04, and 05, they played for national titles and won 2 in 03 and 04. So that program had a ton of momentum, and Reggie Bush was, the hottest thing on the presses at the time because he won the Heisman at the running back position and was drafted really high at the running back position. So every running back in the country wants to be Reggie Bush. You get 3 5-star running backs in that 2006 class because a ton of momentum. 2022 Bama with the 3D linemen. Listen, Bama won the national title in 2020. They were SEC champion in 2021 in the NFL. You had, by the way, you had, going back to that 2001 Tennessee 3 running backs. remember they had 3 running backs in the same class. Remember Jamal Lewis and how high he was drafted? Remember he was drafted in 2000, that 2000 draft, was drafted pick 5 and became a star in the NFL immediately. And then the next year they get 3 running backs in the same class, 3 5-star running backs in the same class. Not a coincidence. What the guys doing at the NFL level has a direct impact on recruiting. And same thing for, Sark this year, right? 11 guys drafted into the NFL will have a direct impact on recruiting, especially having, Xavier Worthy set the 40-yard dash time at the combine, and A.D. Mitchell be drafted in the second round, 3 receivers drafted in the second round. And that could help you recruit receivers at the high school level. So it seems to be that my point is there's always momentum, right? There's momentum in 2000 for Texas to get 3 5-star receivers, momentum for Tennessee to get 3 running backs drafted. Remember, Tennessee had just won the national title in 1998. They won a national title in 1998. They had Jamal Lewis get drafted pick 5 overall at the running back position in 2000. So in 2001, there was momentum for them to recruit 3 5-star running backs. Same thing with USC in 2006. Momentum there. Reggie Bush, the 3 national title appearances, 2 national titles in that run. Momentum to get 3 5-star running backs. Alabama, you could make the argument in 2022, coming off the SEC title, coming off a national championship in 2020. Von Miller at the NFL level, remember, he was just traded in 2021 and won a Super Bowl as one of the pivotal pieces there on the D-line. Myles Garrett was making all-pro teams, year after year as the all-pro, first-team all-pro. So he was one of the best D-linemen in the league. And, for A&M, maybe that helped them in 2023. Because Bama, like I said, I know why they had the momentum. That's Nick Saban. They winning championships. For A&M, maybe it's what the players did at the NFL level, because they didn't really have any other momentum other than some straight cash, homie, to get 3 5-star D linemen in the row in 2023. But they did it. They fired the coach the same damn year. That's rare. So it's happened 5 times in the last 25 years, and Texas would definitely be the only program to be able to do it twice in modern recruiting, to get 3 5-stars at the same position in the same class. All right, there you go. That's the breakdown. All right, we come back. We'll get into NBA discussion. We'll talk about the Western Conference Finals, and we'll discuss the Boston Celtics path to the finals. Is it the easiest path to the finals in NBA history? All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn, Rod Davis here. Let's tell you about my friends over at Apple Leasing. If time is money, my friends at Apple Leasing are in the business of saving you both. They're going to save you time, save you money, and find you tremendous value. Apple Leasing has the ability to put you in any make or model vehicle that you want. The pros at Apple Leasing can help you get the price you want, the payment you want on the car that you want. And all it takes is one phone call or one click on Apple Leasing's website, and you'll get a quote on any make or model vehicle that you want. They can even give you an estimate on the value of your trade-in right over the phone. Apple Leasing's simple interest easy lease does just that, right? It makes things simple and easy for you, so you can have more flexibility, and that's where you're going to have more possibilities and options to help you find the vehicle that fits you best, but more importantly, the vehicle that fits your budget best, because inflation has hit every aspect of our lives, right? It's never been more expensive to buy a new car, buy a used car, buy anything for that matter. That's why leasing makes more sense than ever. You're only paying for the part of the car you're actually using. So give Apple Leasing a call today at 512-346-9977. They get all the same discounts, all the same incentives that the dealers do, except my friends at Apple Leasing, they'd rather pass those savings on to you, the customer. So give them a call today at 512-346-9977, or visit them online at appleleasing.com. That's appleleasing.com. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the Idealionaire Patrick Davis, he comes up with a very creative theme, and all the songs match that theme or reflect that theme. And today, that theme is the origins of hip hop. That's why you got a little Curtis Blow. Like it. It's well done.
Yeah, Curtis Blow.
Yeah, it's a good one. Curtis Blow, I mean, there are a couple of jams you could throw out there. I'm surprised you didn't. And didn't Curtis Blow have the basketball song?
He does have the basketball song too, but
I'm surprised you didn't go with that sports theme. Curtis Blow. It's not one of it. I think it actually was a hit.
It was a hit song, but the breaks is just more.
The breaks it's more about the origins of hip hop.
Yes.
Yes, it's more reflective of the origins of hip hop. But Curtis Blow's basketball song is more fun for the show.
It is. I think I played it on the show. I played it on these airwaves at some point. I know that.
Oh, I know you have. I want to say it might have been for a new theme Thursday.
Probably.
It might have been. I want to say it might have been for like a theme and about. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was about the like. Oh, I can't remember, but I want to say you did it for a basketball. Like it might have been a tournament. Started the tournament, maybe or something like that.
Yeah, just solid stuff.
Solid stuff, man.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, and it still flows. Like it actually is what
it does. But then you have Curtis Blow, and you're like, it's very of the time. Because this right here could still work today.
It could. Somebody should do a remix of it, honestly. And then the NBA should like pay the royalties, and they should use it, and they should
just mix this with John Tesh for NBA and NBC.
Oh, that's coming back too. Yeah, we get some. Yes, we're getting throwbacks back in the NBA because yes, the NBA and NBC theme is coming back. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's a great song too.
Get a round ball rock.
Yeah, man, I love that. There you go. They should. I don't know who would do the remix. I mean, obviously it'd be Jack Harlow.
Yeah, this is round ball rock.
Oh yeah, what a fantastic song. I can work out to this actually. I probably should have put this on my phone so I can work out to it.
You just work out some round ball rock.
This is just a great energy. It's just that energy of it so good.
It's the most hilarious part is watching him do it live.
Oh, I've seen that video
where he comes out and they're playing the kick drum and he's fake dribbling to the kick drum.
Yeah.
and the crowd is just going nuts.
Exactly. Because the song is so awesome. Doesn't matter what you do to the song. You can do whatever you want. But the song is so great. Everybody just pumped up.
Still the SNL sketch where they put lyrics to it is still all-time classic too.
I think I remember that one. Like, who are the ones?
It was Tim Robinson and Jason Sudeikis were doing it, and then Vince Vaughn's in the sketch. And
I do remember this actually vaguely. Yes,
great
I might go look it up again. That is good stuff. All right, let's get to the topic for the big fat poll of the day as well, and then we'll get to the Horn headlines, and then we'll talk some NBA, Western Conference Finals, and the Eastern Conference Finals. Was that path to the finals for the Boston Celtics? Was it the easiest path to the finals in NBA history? Some people are discussing that. We'll talk about that too. But let's get to the topic for the big fat poll of the day first.
Time for the big fat poll of the day today. Which SEC school are you hoping to form a secondary rivalry with the most? We've got it up and posted now. LSU is the front runner so far. Tennessee behind them, just ahead of Alabama. Ole Miss coming up at the trail. I think Ole Miss only works because it's the Lane Kiffin rivalry.
Yes, it works as a Sark thing.
So it's Sark and Lane Kiffin, it works. Yeah. But without that, it doesn't really work as well. But I think there is something fun about Sark and Lane Kiffin, that those will always be good, like interview weeks. Anytime you play them, as long as those two guys are coaching.
You get little good stories and anecdotes.
Yeah, so I think those will be fun matchups. But yeah, I think, LSU and Tennessee would be my two top picks of what it will be, and I think it depends on who we play more and who we kind of fall into that rotation of.
Honestly, I'd love an it rivalry, and kind of an it rivalry for me. It's just one short-term rivalry. I mean, it's just one. It's not going to last long. It's not. We're not talking about 100 years here. We're not talking about A&M or Arkansas or Oklahoma. We're just talking about, for the time being, the circumstances have dictated y'all play a lot. So it's kind of an it rivalry, and I think I want one with Georgia. Because if you got a rivalry with Georgia, that means you playing Georgia a lot. Georgia's going to be really good.
Yeah. And
they have been really good for the next 3-4 years. And that would mean you're playing them in the SEC title game a lot because they're going to be represented there in the SEC title game. And since the next 2 years, you're going to play them in the regular season. And then you could end up playing them again in the SEC title game also in the next couple of years. And then you ultimately could play them again in the college football playoff if it all goes right. You could end up playing Georgia 3 times. And you telling me that wouldn't spark a little rivalry? Like, damn, man, we played Georgia a lot, and we're gonna play them again next year, and we're gonna play them next year. You end up playing them like 5 times in a 2-year span. That end up sparking a little rivalry, like, man, because then you would focus on them so much.
Yeah.
In those 2 years, you'd be like, man, I was obsessed with Georgia for these 2 years. I would like to see that over the next 2 years. Remember, we played this out on Peter Burns, who is an SEC network analyst, and he helped do the pre-game analysis for the spring game for Texas. And he said Texas right now reminds him of Georgia 2 years ago.
Yeah, I did say it. Yeah, I remember
He
that.
said that. I didn't say that. He said that. I've seen, he gets to see both of them. Like, not a lot of people get to see Georgia, go to practice and see Georgia and go to Texas football practice. Only a few people in the United States of America have been able to do that. NFL scouts have been able to do that. NFL coaches can do that. But not a lot of teams have been able to do that. Not a lot of people have been able to do that. He's one of the few people that's got that kind of access and can speak about it in the media. Like, NFL coaches ain't going to tell you what they think about it. And he's saying, yeah, Texas kind of reminds me of Georgia a couple years ago. I'm like, Georgia?
Just look big, look like pros.
What?
Look,
like they won 2 back-to-back national titles. You mean that Georgia a couple of years ago? So just throwing it out there. I would love to see a Texas Georgia. And by the way, another great way to tie the rivalries, right? The state of Georgia right now. Well, take state of Georgia. State of Georgia's in there, but really it's about the Atlanta metro area. Is producing NFL players at a higher rate than any metro area in the country. Second is DFW. And Texas has been building that roster with DFW for the last 3 years, stacking it with DFW guys. Y'all know it. It's about probably 10, 12 guys y'all can name, 10, 15 guys you can name just from the DFW area on that roster right now that are key cogs, right, in what Texas is going to do going forward. And then you look at that Atlanta area, and one of the biggest reasons why Georgia has been able to ascend to dominance now, and now they are the big dog in college football, no pun intended, is because that Atlanta area, since 2020, no metro area in the country has produced NFL talent at a higher rate. And by the way, there's some distance in between them and DFW. Little distance. That's how fertile that recruiting ground is. And so you're talking about the 2 most fertile home of the 2 most fertile metro areas in the country. Houston's in the top 5, but Houston ain't nowhere close to Atlanta. Nobody's touching Atlanta right now. And that's why you see Sark getting guys from Atlanta. Where's Kenny Baker from? Atlanta area. Detroit Choice got ties in Atlanta. He's like, I gotta get some of them guys out of Atlanta. I can't allow Georgia to just dominate that. And nobody competes with Georgia in that state, really. Georgia Tech? No. They ain't got no. It's like LSU in Louisiana. In Texas, just to disrupt the dominance of what LSU could have, you got to go in there and steal some of those guys from them.
That's true. Yeah.
You can't allow Arch Manning to go to LSU. That's crazy. With the receivers that they're stacking, like, nah, man, you can't allow right next door to you. They eventually. This is why nations don't allow other nations who could be very formidable to start stockpiling weapons next door to him. It's like, nah, man, you can't be doing that. No. That's got us too anxious. You can't be stockpiling that. Otherwise we need to be real good friends, and we ain't friends like that. Same thing with Louisiana. The state of Louisiana is top 5 per capita producing NFL talent year after year. And Mac Brown didn't make inroads enough there, but Sark is. Sark's like, I'm going in Louisiana, because I think Sark understands how much talent is in that state too. So that one makes perfect sense. But I think Georgia's interesting.
Georgia's interesting.
Just for a little bit.
And I'll say for the people that text, I say in Arkansas, we're saying that A&M, Oklahoma, and Arkansas are set into the primary rivals.
There's primary rivals. We're talking about the
secondary rivals. Yes.
Second tier rivals. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we're not disrespecting Arkansas. No. Arkansas, A&M, and Oklahoma, because the conversation started because we renewed the rivalries, and Sark's excited about the renewing of the rivalries, getting all those rivalries back.
Yeah.
So those are your main rivals, but sometimes you get those second tier rivals that pop up. And Texas had a bunch of those in the Big 12. I think Oklahoma State became that for Texas for a while. Texas Tech wanted to be that for a while and became that for a little while. I mean, you can have these little second tier rivals, but the main thing is still the main thing. All right. The main thing is the Horn headlines right now. Let's get updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories of the day. Then we'll come back and discuss some NBA. But first, let's get the Horn headlines with Patrick Davis.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas softball begins their run in Oklahoma City tonight in the Women's College World Series against Stanford. This is Texas' 7th all-time appearance in the Women's College World Series. They're facing a Cardinal program who they split the two matchups they face each other this season. In the NBA, the Mavericks will take on the Timberwolves back in Minnesota tonight in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. The Mavs will hope Derek Lively, who has been upgraded to questionable, will be able to return after leaving Game 3 when he was hit with a knee to the back of the head. Lively is 13 for 13 in the West Finals and is the Mavs' best plus-minus of the postseason at plus 109. In Major League Baseball, the Astros dropped their third straight game to the division-leading Mariners 2-1 in the 10th inning yesterday. The Astros will look to salvage a game in the series today, and the Rangers took care of their opponent from last year's World Series as they beat the Diamondbacks 6-1, with Corey Seager hitting his eighth home run in 8 straight games, sparking the Rangers hitting. The Rangers are off today before starting a series with the Marlins on Friday, and that is your Horn headlines.
All right. I want to get to previewing the Western Conference Finals Game 5 here in just a second. But I want to get to this conversation about the Celtics and their road to the finals, and whether they had the easiest path to the finals. So basically, if you look at just opposing record, if you go look at the playoff opponents' average wins for the regular season, Boston's conference playoff opponents averaged 47 wins in the regular season. And of all of the finals, all the teams that made the finals, I believe since 1983, that is the 19th lowest opponent total among the 80 teams that made the finals since 1983. So it's not quite, based on that metric, not the weakest path to the NBA finals ever. But, and here's the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size. But if you take into account injuries, so an injury adjusted metric about how difficult the path was for the Celtics and teams, the 80 teams, to reach the NBA finals since 1983, the Celtics would have the easiest path to the NBA finals since 1984 based on an injury adjusted metric, if you're considering injuries. And this is kind of the larger macro conversation is, and I got some stats too here that are interesting. So from 1984 to 1999, 47% of teams that reached the NBA finals benefited from at least one key opponent injury along the way. But if you're using, that same definition in the 21st century, 82% of finalists, and that including every finalist in the 2020s, 40 of 49, have benefited from at least one key opponent injury along the way. So that number has skyrocketed. And we know this postseason, and Patrick, we've talked about it, but we didn't want to make it necessarily the main topic of conversation or the main headline, and the NBA doesn't want it either. But man, this postseason has been riddled with injuries, especially on the Eastern Conference side of things. The Celtics opponents have missed a whopping 37 player games due to injury or illness. And how about this? A new study from Jeff Stotts reveals that the total number of player games lost due to injury this postseason has now reached 200. That's already eclipsed last season's figure for the entire playoffs. On a per game level, player games lost due to injury are up 22% this postseason, putting it on track to be the most injury-riddled non-COVID postseason in the last decade. You have now 2.9 players on average, player games lost per team per game. And that is the last time you reached that number was 2021-22. You're at 2.9. Then, of course, the COVID year, you're at 3.3. But yeah, we know that it's because of COVID. But man, if you go look at it now, for comparison, that 2016-2017 postseason, players missed 138 games due to injury or illness. But over the last 6 postseasons, the league has averaged about 224 player games missed due to injury or illness. And it's there. I mean, right now it looks like that is the new norm, you would assume. The same study said how about this, since 2014, when the Spurs beat the Heat in the finals, the championship team has averaged 19.7 player games lost due to injury in the postseason, while the runner-up has suffered 25 on average. And according to the NBA player participation study, 11 different stars. So basically, if your definition of an all-star is somebody who's been an all-star, all-NBA in the last 3 seasons, 11 different stars have missed a total of 47 games this postseason already.
Yeah. I mean, that's if you look over in the Eastern Conference, it's not even just the guys that the Celtics played. Giannis being out, Lillard missing time in there, and then the injuries that happened to the Knicks in the Pacers series. Like that's not even teams the Celtics were playing, and they all got beat up as well. The Celtics, if people don't know, the ones they got, the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler goes down. He doesn't play for a lot of games in that series. That's a huge blow because Miami wasn't that great to begin with of a team. Mm-hmm. And then you take out their best player for the Cavaliers. You started it without Jarrett Allen. He does not play in the entire series. That's a big loss for the Cavs. He had been their defensive, centerpiece for the entire season. He was out. And then Donovan Mitchell misses the last 2 games of that series as well. So when you have him out, that just becomes, again, the best player on that team being out. And then Tyrese Halliburton, the best player on the Pacers, ends up missing the last 2 games of that series as well. And in reality, I think we think even, with Jimmy Butler completely healthy, with Donovan Mitchell and Jarrett Allen completely healthy, and with Tyrese Halliburton completely healthy, the Celtics are still in the finals.
Yeah.
Like they were just a better team. So I get that it is an easier path. And, in the NBA, you do have that break between the finals normally, unless, you go to 7. I think they would have been able to get enough of a break there anyway. But that's, to me, it is an easy path. I think that but I don't know if it's necessarily the best thing in the world for a team that's trying to win a championship, a team that's not been clutch in certain moments in the past, a team that's been labeled it soft in the past. I don't know if you want to be able to get there easily because you get to the NBA finals and now you got to fight with somebody and you haven't fought yet.
That's true.
I mean, so if you're fighting with a team where whether it's Minnesota or Dallas, these guys have been in slugfest the entire playoffs.
Clutch time. They've been living in clutch time every damn game with the
and so yes, they're going to be more beat up for sure. They're coming into this as fighters, and Boston's going to have to be able to just outpace them. And in reality, they haven't really. They weren't blowing out the Pacers without Tyrese Halliburton. And so I get you got to stay healthy. You got to be able to push if you're the Minnesota or the Mavs, whoever advances. But at the same part, these are teams that are very much tested and have bonded throughout the playoffs. You talked earlier, we'll talk about in the Western Conference Finals about a team that is bonding right now in the Mavs and really coming together and has a culture. I don't know if Boston, I think Boston has a group of guys that they're constantly having to tell, don't go on social media, don't watch the news because everyone's talking trash about you right now. And you're not going to go into the finals with the theory of, trying to be the toughest guys. And, well, who do you want to prove wrong? If it's the media, I don't know if that's really what you want to be thinking is, no, we are tough guys. No, go play good basketball, but you can get in your own head at that point. So, as much as it is an easy pass and they get a rest and they're going to be, bring their health back. Kristaps Porzingis, we still don't know if he's going to be fully healthy. We don't, we haven't heard what his situation is so far. I get it. I think it's just a way to, keep talking about the Eastern Conference as we get through and there's such a long break. But the Eastern Conference is beat up. The Eastern Conference is not as good of a conference as as the Western Conference is. There, the Western Conference has teams that are built to beat other teams in the Western Conference, and it doesn't feel like that's happening in the East right now. You may see teams built to beat Boston, but you could also see this Boston team have to make adjustments as they keep going on. Drew Holiday is aging. We'll see if they can keep Kristaps Porzingis on this team long term and Derek White and some other guys on this team longer term. They're a really good team. This is their window. This is when they're going to try and do it. But I don't know if they have that leadership in the locker room to focus fully and be able to snap back into it. That's going to be the big question of, if you're untested and when push comes to shove and you get in there, is your first time you're really doing that in the finals? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, that's a great point. Because the when the Mavs get there, I don't want to jinx them because we'll talk about that. They will be calloused in terms of the way they respond to clutch time because they've been in it. Like this whole T-Wolves series, every game has come down to clutch time. And the one they lost was when their stars didn't show up in clutch time. Even I want to say going back to that game 6 against OKC. It came down to clutch time too. I got to go back and check, but my point is they've been there a lot more than the Boston Celtics. And you're right, that could come back to bite Boston. And getting back to the leadership, really jumping onto the Western side of things. And I saw this quote, and it actually, I'm a quasi Cowboy Mavs fan, I should say now, just like I'm a quasi Cowboys fan. But it did get me giddy for Mavs fans because the culture there now with the Mavs and their leadership. I think it could be on the verge of being special. And I saw this quote, and this made me think about it. So after they lost, after they lost game 4, I saw Luka and Kyrie essentially have the same tone and echo the same sentiment with their post-game quote. Luka said, "Oh, I think that game's on me. I just didn't give enough energy." And Kyrie said, this is separate quotes, separate interviews. He said, "A lot of this is on me. I had spurts. We had spurts, but I've got to put a full 48 minutes of a game together." I've always said it's about great leaders in any sport. And honestly, you could argue in any business, walk of life, when the fit hits the shan and you lose a game, when you lose and you're a leader and you're a star, you should be a me guy when you lose. Take all the burden. Yes, on me. I need to be better. I'll be better. I have to get my teammates involved. Me. When you lose, me, I. But when you win, that's we. When you win, that's we. That's us. The team, right? Man, the guys played great. They uplifted me. They made me better. The guys, they're so supportive. The guys played their roles really well. They stepped up in big moments. When you win, we. When you lose, me. That's what you're seeing right now from Luka and from Kyrie. I think that's signs of a really good culture they got there with the Mavs. I do. That's like the Mavs are going to go to the finals. We know that. We just don't know how the story's going to look. But that is something that we know here at Texas, Sark talks about culture and how it wins them games. That could be the secret sauce for him, man. We talked about how Kyrie now is playing whatever role they need him to play, and he seems to be happy and content doing it. You brought up the contract when they paid him, and nobody else, really agreed with that move. It was like, why are you paying him for that? And we brought up yesterday also, Kyrie Irving and Luka not being great in clutch time when they first made the trade, but now they found their groove and their rhythm in clutch time, which is what all these games are coming down to. And now they're the second best clutch team in the NBA during that clutch time period. It's, to me, I think the culture is being reflected in a lot of the trials and tribulations they're having to overcome in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I think this is kind of what Jason Kidd has wanted to build more and more of building a more defensive team. You brought in guys in Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington who really want to embrace it because they came from places with bad culture and or no culture. They're just not winning teams. And, it felt like they just it started to all come together at the right time of understanding what they need to do to become to take that team to the next level. And for, the young guys on this team to step into those roles and everybody understand what they're supposed to be doing. It seems like it's been going that way. And I think there's one piece that they would love to have that would have gotten on board with it. But if you want to talk about people knowing their roles and their culture, look at Tim Hardaway. And I know he had some struggles shooting, but it feels like Tim Hardaway just wasn't being a part of it as much. And whether it was through injury or whatever else, his mind did not seem to be in the right place. And he's not playing right now. They went ahead and said next man up mentality, not even an injury, but a guy who was a huge part and a guy that they were saying should have been a top piece of this team, and he's not playing a ton right now.
No, you're right about that. Yeah, because right now he just may not be the right fit for what this team is becoming. And yeah, and Mavs fans know this. The last time Mavs won a title in 2011, there was a secret sauce to that. They weren't more talented than the Miami Heat overall. That was a secret sauce. That was a culture there that was able to overcome the trials and the tribulations. And was it Dirk was sick or something like that? And the team riding around. I remember.
Oh yeah, when
LeBron and right, D-Ray was like mocking him or something.
Yes,
right?
I remember. They were
the coffin and stuff like that. I mean, it really was true. It was like a wrestling. It really was like a wrestling storyline. You had true villains, and then Dirk. It was great. But I remember the Wall Street Journal doing a 3-game study during that time span of the first 3 games of that finals, and they called it the Touchy Feely Index, and they just wanted to document how often teams hugged and they dapped each other up and gave high fives and butt taps and bumps and all that kind of stuff, chest bumps. And they found that the Mavs, they had 250 such kind of affectionate examples of them touching each other, almost twice as touchy-feely, they said, as the Miami Heat, who had only 134 instances of televised contact. In 3 games, the Mavs were 82% more likely to high five than the Heat were. And they got into basically no player over the 3 games collected more high fives than Tyson Chandler, and then was Dirk Nowitzki, and then Sean Marion, and then Jason Kidd. They got deep into it. My point was, it was funny at the time, but it did show you the camaraderie of the Mavs. And what they also documented was that as the series wore on, the Mavs actually had more contact and more physical affection for one another, and the Miami Heat had less. That basically, as the series went on, they were less affectionate toward one another during the game, and the Mavs were more affectionate, pumping each other up, supporting one another. And you could argue that was part of the secret sauce, man. That the culture of the Mavs is what shined through at that time and won them that championship. I'm not saying they're gonna win the championship. I don't want to jinx them, but their culture is something special too.
Yeah, it's definitely trended the correct direction in this year's playoffs.
Yep, there's no doubt about it. Okay, we come back. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain briefly. We'll hear from CDC. We'll hear from Steve Sarkisian about how happy they are about the renewed rivalries, and CDC, a little glib, talking a little trash to the SEC folks on Paul Feinbaum show. We'll talk about that as well. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation. Go behind the burnt orange curtain. CDC and CDC and Steve Sarkisian are at the spring meetings for the SEC in Destin, Florida, and there's been a lot of talk about the rivalries in Texas that Texas is renewing their first year in the SEC. So first, we're going to hear from Steve Sarkisian because he's really excited about renewing these rivalries. We talked about it and. The topic for the big fat poll of the day. And Patrick asked you what secondary rivalries would you be most interested in going into the SEC. But Sark's talking about the main rivals they're getting back the Aggies, the Texas A&M rivalry, getting back the Arkansas rivalry, taking the Texas-Oklahoma rivalry with us into the SEC. Here's Steve Sarkisian. And this is actually from earlier this week at the spring meetings, but here's him talking about renewing some of those old school traditions versus the Aggies and the Razorbacks.
I'm excited. I'll be honest with you. You know, I've been part of some great rivalries in college football, and I know there was so much talk about realignment, and I know realignment looks different for every school, but for us, we gained 2 rivals back. Right, we're playing Arkansas again, which is great for Texas Longhorn and Longhorn Nation. We get A&M back, and so you're talking about the game with A&M. You're talking about houses divided. You're talking about decades of tremendous games in Thanksgiving weekend, and so to get that game back, I know we're looking forward to it. I'm sure A&M is too. I've got a ton of respect for Coach Elko. We competed against one another. When he was a defensive coordinator at A&M and I was an offensive coordinator at Alabama, and he got really good scheme, really good players, and I think he's going to do a really good job there.
All right, that is start talking about the renewing of some of those old rivalries with the Aggies and with the Razorbacks. I'll say this CDC, shout out to my man Bobby Burton over at On Texas Football. He says that CDC was asked about playing that game on Thanksgiving, and CDC doesn't want to do that because of the basically because of the crowded now kind of broadcast schedule of Thanksgiving is not something that you can have on your own anymore. But he did say that he's not opposed to doing it Friday to actually, have that happen on a Friday as opposed to on Thanksgiving. So who knows? They could be thinking about moving that rivalry. He wants to have it isolated where Texas can be one of the standalone games, and he doesn't want to compete with the NFL.
As someone who's had to work that game and tailgates and all that multiple times in my career doing radio here in Austin, I'm all for it not being on Thanksgiving. As a fan, that's really fun. But as everyone who has to work around that game, all the people, it is frustrating because if you're a player or whatever, most of your family will kind of build around and go, oh no, we'll do Thanksgiving because you're the star of the family. If you are a concessions worker at DKR, or if you're just someone who has to work a tailgate, or you're someone, then it doesn't, you just miss Thanksgiving that year. You don't get to see your family as much. And so
you're right about that.
I know that for everyone who's kind of in the support of doing things around it, that day after, it's still the holiday weekend. It's still all about it, but you get it, you're not necessarily having to miss an entire day with your family because of the game. So in that sense, I always thought Friday worked a little bit better. I liked it when it was on Thanksgiving too, but the day after seemed easier.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Now I definitely understand that, just because everybody's got plans on Thanksgiving. Trying to make those plans around game day plans can be really tough. So Sark's really excited about that. Speaking of Sark's doing a lot of interviews. I'm trying to gather up some of them because he's doing interviews with like local regional radio shows in the region there in SEC country, and SEC focused shows as well. So I'm trying to gather as much of it as I can. So I'll be kind of being a audio vulture looking for some of that stuff. But apparently there's some people that heard him. My man Bobby Burton was one of them, doing a radio show admitting that he's a gamer. That at least he was back in the day.
Yeah.
And Sark used to be a gamer back in the day. And that they were talking about the college football video game coming out, and Sark admitting that he used to be a gamer back in the day. And I was like, man, I wonder if they can get Sark on the game. They're going to have the game in the facilities. Like, they're going to have the game available to play, like the players.
But man, you get, man, do you know how much video games pass you by?
Oh, I know, but I wonder. I just wonder if somebody's going to be able to get him on the game. Players
Like
get
he's
him on
going
the
to
game.
hand remote, and he's going to go, wait. There's 7 more
Hey.
buttons than I used to have.
It don't take that long to get back on it. Trust me, it don't take long, man. It don't take long. It's like riding the bike. It takes like 1 or 2 games and you figure it out. If you played a lot, if you were a true gamer back in the day, it won't take you long. If you were a true gamer.
That's the thing. I was never a true gamer, but yeah, every time there'd be like a new system and you play it and they'd be like, all right, then hold down the Zeckler button. And you're like, what's a Zeckler button? They're like, no, you just hold that and you spin it around and I'm like, I don't know what that button is.
No, you're right. And it depends on what system you played in too, right? You Xbox or you're a PlayStation person, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't matter. But I don't know. Sark said he was kind of a gamer and he used to get on the game. Well, if Sark used to get on the game, then maybe they can get him back on the game. That would be awesome. That'd be great if there was like a NIL opportunity for you to purchase at some charity event or something, a game with Sark, like best out of 3.
Yeah,
against Sark in the game. Oh man, the money would go through the roof for that. Or EA Sports to try to get some of these other young coaches who also probably played the game to say, hey, would y'all actually for charity? Would y'all just play a video game against each other? Yeah. And the thing is, you got to either play with the other team's roster. You can't play with your team though. You can't play with your team. You got to play with somebody else to make it real fun.
I just like Sark scrolling through the playbook, being like, this isn't the right playbook.
Yeah, exactly. What the hell does it say? Who made this playbook? That's a great point too. And I think this is why Sark probably he relates to the players so well too. Sark is into games. How many young people are into games these days? A ton of them. And I remember asking some of the young guys that we interviewed for the Third and Longhorns podcast. Shout out to Nick Shuley and Alex Okafor and Jeremy Hills and Fozzie Whitaker and Derek Johnson, the crew. You know, what do you like about Sark? You would be surprised how many guys talk and compliment his taste in shoes.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Something they love about Sark.
I've heard that.
And young people are obsessed with shoes, and they was like, "Oh man, Sark's shoe game is unbelievable." And it's like that stands out to you, huh? And it's weird, but that I think it helps him recruit. Being someone who likes gaming, if he loved games like that, and he can at least sound like he knows what the hell he's talking about to it, because gamers have their own language. It's like football. You start talking to real football people and you get into a room with just coaches and football. Oh man, you sound like you're listening to a foreign language in there sometimes. Like, what the hell are they talking about? If you don't actually know ball. Same thing can be true with NBA circles. We saw somebody starts dropping in. You're like, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. And the same thing can be true like in the gaming world. And same thing can be true, I'm sure, in the shoe world. You go to some of these high-end shoe stores like in Vegas. I went to a shoe store in Vegas during the Super Bowl. I have no idea. The shoe culture has left me behind. I have no idea what the hell's going on in shoe culture. I have no idea what's going on. And most of y'all have no idea either. You have no idea. The shoe culture is crazy, man. It is wild these days. What's going on in the shoe culture? All these, because now they got shoes. They only make like 100 of them or 50 of them. And now they got like rap artists that have their own shoe. Man, it is crazy. They got artists, period, like the actual artists that have their own, man. It's another world. Another world. I was just know that world.
I was just thrown off that they were like, they announced that there was a Wemby shoe coming out, and I was like, oh, these are his signature shoes. And like, no, it's just his design on another shoe model. And I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing they did now. And I'm sure that's been going on for a while. No clue.
For a while. Just a rapper's like, now I want to come out with one shoe. And it's like one shoe. It's crazy stuff going on.
It's going to be a left.
It's going to That's Kanye. Not even the right. Just one left. Figure out the right on your own. Okay. Can we just play the CDC Paul Feigenbaum CDC sound of him on Paul Feigenbaum real quick? Just telling them that he thinks the Texas OU game is going to be the new featured rivalry, marquee rivalry in the SEC. Here's CDC.
Have you been to the Red River rivalry yet?
At the beginning of my career, I saw it.
It's ridiculous. It's the greatest thing ever. You may talk about the cocktail party, the Iron Bowl. It is nothing like
where
this
is
game
going. I think
at the state fair, because you have 300,000
people. I detected something there.
300,000 people outside. No, the Iron Bowl is awesome. Don't get me wrong. At night, it's great. Same with but the cocktail party. But this game, nuts too. You got to throw us a bone there, P-Dub. What's up, buddy?
Joe. The University of Texas is not even an official member yet of the SEC, and he's already thrown shade on the Iron Bowl. The Iron Bowl.
No.
You'll be fine because we're not even allowed to call it the cocktail party.
When your callers come in losing their mind, I was not throwing shade. What I was saying, it is an unbelievable environment.
Oh, man.
So you're already throwing a little sauce on that for no reason.
You've given me a gift.
This is not right.
Oh, it's the gift that keeps on giving. The whole.
Come on now.
Come on. This
All I
guy-
was saying was it's an awesome game that you give. You know, you talk about it.
CDC seems at home there. You've given me a gift. He knows his callers, Alabama fans, Auburn fans, SEC fans. Oh, they're gonna love to pick that one apart.
I liked at the end you got the high pitch at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
I did. I heard that. All right. We come back. We got off the record. Speaking of rivalries, the Aggies. There was footage released of the Aggies singing some type of Aggie chant that is supposed to be disrespectful to Texas. We got the audio. We'll try to decipher Aggie, whatever this Aggie language is that they're speaking. We'll get into that on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn, Rod Davis here. Austin is a great city. One of the reasons people keep moving to Austin is because it's such an awesome city, but it's also one of the reasons the traffic gets even worse. And as our city continues to grow and thrive, so do our friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482. Many of the iconic landmarks we love in this city were created and built by the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DKR Stadium. The folks over at Ironworkers Local 482 don't just go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting employment opportunity or a refreshing career change, or maybe you want a new challenge, or you want to feel valued by your employer, you can become a valued member of this prestigious organization, Ironworkers Local Union 482, and right now it's a perfect time to do it. They're hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project right here in Central Texas, offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So right now is a perfect time for you to become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that help shape the future of our great city. So go online today and apply at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to off the record here. All right, so Apparently, this came from some Aggie ceremony of some kind behind the scenes at an Aggie event. And this was put out there by them. I think it comes from Texag. So this is something that they wanted out there. It's not somebody wasn't sneaking a video in there. And listen to the chant and see if you can hear what's going on, because I believe this is some horn disrespect here by the Aggies here during their Aggie, like I said, this Aggie chant and ceremony here. Here it is. Okay, so did you make out what it was? Was it saw the something horns off? Could you make that out?
I could not make it out enough.
But they were saying saw something horns off.
I believe so. I thought they may have been
Okay.
saying horse, but I think you're right. I think they were saying horns.
I think they were saying horns, but I need an Aggie because I'm not an Aggie hater. So Aggies, hit us up on the text line 512-447-3776. I want to know exactly what they were saying. I'm pretty sure it was something horns off. I just don't know. Yeah, exactly what it is.
Yeah, I don't. It's
right. Like you said, I don't speak fluent Aggie, so I don't know exactly what it is. So let me know, Aggies. What are they saying here? I'm not trying to make fun of the chanting. I just want to know exactly.
You guys aren't supposed to put this out yourselves.
Yes, they put it out there.
This is awkward.
They want it out there.
Weird stuff.
I think it is kind of weird, and I think even other SEC members are mocking him, not just Texas.
Yes,
which happens usually. Other SEC members like LSU, and they're like, "What is this? This is weird. What? This is weird."
Y'all guys wrote a song from 1835, and you're like, "Nah, let's crank that one out." That'd be awesome.
Oh man! All right, it's always fun to make fun of the Aggies. Always a fun thing. All right, we come back. We will have some in NFL discussion because Pro Football Focus has a roster ranking of the top rosters in the NFL. We'll see where they have the Cowboys and where they have the Texans. We'll give some props. Well, not us, but actually there is some props being given to C.J. Stroud. We'll talk about what that means for C.J. Stroud going forward. Also, I think there is now a kind of a new concept. That's not a new concept. It's an old concept, but it faded at one point. It started to fade from the NFL's popular schemes and strategies. And I think now it's making a comeback. And we'll talk about that too when we get into Rod's rant of the day. So we're going to see all that on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast, and that's when my man Patrick, he plays jams that reflect the new theme, whatever that creative theme is. And today that theme is origins of hip hop. Hip hop hadn't been around that long. We're talking about, well, the origins of hip hop probably go back to what, late 70s, if you really want to go back to like the earliest parts of it. So you're talking about a genre that's less than 60 years old.
Yeah, I mean, these are all
as a genre.
Yeah, these are all 80s. These are all like early 80s.
These are 80s. Yeah, that's when you got it first started to penetrate mainstream a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think it was just in clubs and in garages and house parties and stuff like that in the late 70s.
Yes.
And then in the 80s, people started to actually put it on, albums and, obviously produce it in studios. And then obviously you have the boom that you have today. And it's become, I think in terms of the popularity of it, it right now is contending, if not to be the most popular genre of music, like in America at least. And like I said, internationally, I don't know the numbers, but domestically, is considered to be, if not the most, but one of the most popular genres of music right now. And yeah, the crazy part about it, like I said, it's only 60 years old or less than 60 years old. Now you're starting to have old people, senior citizens who are fans of hip hop. This is the first like generation of senior citizens who are like, oh yeah, no, that's my favorite genre of music is hip hop, and they can be in their 60s, and it's gonna be freaky when you have retirement homes in like 15, 20 years because of how popular hip hop is now, that are gonna be just jamming like old school hip hop, like jamming Kanye and jamming Tupac and jamming like 8 Ball and MJG in the retirement home. It's gonna be weird. It's like 80-year-old people jamming it, but that's essentially what's gonna be now. I mean, you got senior citizens that are jamming rock and roll and stuff back in the day that was considered, oh man, that's that music, man. That's out there. That's
I'll tell you the one
renegade music.
I'll tell you what it is, because you just mentioned rock and roll. It's what I realize it's too, is when you're walking through your local grocery store and you hear Tupac and you hear Biggie and you hear that'll be the one where you're like, wait, what is this? Are they playing to hit him up in the frozen food aisle?
Yeah, because they're trying to appeal to like, no, this is that generation. This is the data says this is what they want to listen to. I think it's gonna be really weird because rock and roll is going through that now, where you got old people that at once they're listening to this was considered kind of a genre for outcasts, or a genre for renegades or rebels. No, it's like now this guy's
that's what he says.
Grandfather.
When you're getting older is when you're walking through shopping and then you notice you're singing along to a song that should not be in that store.
Yep.
And that'll
be a lot of people have that.
You going down and you're singing Highway to Hell and you're like, why? I'm buying laundry detergent. Why am I? That's a weird thing right now. I don't know why I'm singing this. And Rod, you're gonna have that one. Yeah, it'll just be.
You're right.
You'll be rapping along to a song. Like, wait a minute, where am I at?
Like, why are they playing this here? Right, this is a family.
Till the sweat drips down there. Come on.
But you're right. That's a great point. And rock and roll has gone through there, and it's like, I'm sure they're like, man, you shouldn't be playing this here. This is not what the spirit of this song was about. But you're right. That once you mainstream something, it loses its edge. It loses the thing that makes it rebellious and all that. It's like, no, now it's accept. Now you got kids singing from the window to the wall. And you got, kids dancing to Not Like Us. And it's like, well, it doesn't seem as edgy as it once was. But that's what mainstream capitalism will do when it mainstream something like that. But no, good stuff there with the origins of hip hop. I like that. Okay, we got NFL discussion here. We'll get into the roster rankings from Pro Football Focus. I think you might be surprised where they have the Cowboys and the Texans ranked here. And CJ Stroud getting some love. Speaking of football writers, he getting some love from the Pro Football Writers Association. We'll talk about what that means for his MVP odds. We'll get into that too coming up a little bit later on. And I do want to get into bump and run. I think the bump and run coverage is something that's faded in the NFL. Now it's seen as something that's it's more a unique novelty than anything right these days, but it's about to make a comeback. I've talked to enough football theorists like me, and it's one of my theories that I've thrown around when I talk to football minds about bump and run coverage. And the reason I started thinking about this research is because Sark wants to start playing more press coverage. And he has stated that he wants to start playing some more press coverage. So I've been doing a little bit more research about it. And we'll talk about that too coming up a little bit later on. If we have time, if not, we can just, we'll get into it tomorrow. It's one of those evergreen topics I've been doing research on. Okay, so let's start here with the Horn headlines. We'll get into those first, get you updated, educated, and informed, and then we'll go right into the roster rankings by Pro Football Focus. Then we'll get into the CJ Stroud recognition, the accolade that he got earlier this week. That I think it's a small thing that could end up being a big factor in him and his MVP campaign this upcoming season. So we'll get into that too. Before we do that, though, let's get updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas softball begins their run in Oklahoma City tonight in the Women's College World Series against Stanford. This is Texas' 7th all-time appearance in the Women's College World Series, and they're facing a Cardinal program who they split the two matchups they had faced each other this season. In the NBA, the Mavericks will take on the Timberwolves back in Minnesota tonight in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. The Mavs will hope Derek Lively, who has been upgraded to questionable, will be able to return after leaving Game 3 when he was hit with a knee to the back of the head. Lively is 13 for 13 in the West Finals and is the Mavs' best plus-minus of the postseason at plus 109. In Major League Baseball, the Astros dropped their third straight game to the division-leading Mariners 2-1 in the 10th inning yesterday. The Astros will look to salvage a game in the series today. And the Rangers took care of their opponent from last year's World Series as they beat the Diamondbacks 6-1, with Corey Seager hitting his 8th home run in 8th straight game, sparking the Rangers hitting. The Rangers are off today before starting a series with the Marlins on Friday. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. Appreciate those. Okay, let's start with this Pro Football Focus roster ranking. So they went through all the post-draft and post-free agency. I guess you still can sign free agents, but most of free agency has dried up.
Cowboys are hoping they can sign a running back still.
Yeah, they can. I mean, there's actually some pretty good. I went through the free agent list. There's some decent free agents out there, actually.
There are, yeah.
There's some pretty good, actually more DBs than anything. Remember all those safeties and all those corners that hit the free agent market? There's still some quality DBs and safeties out there.
Yeah, I saw that there was still a couple that were tied to the Texans. I saw.
Yeah, Steven Nelson's still out there.
Steven Nelson's still out there. And then what's his name? Xavier Howard. That's from the Houston area that was in Miami, yes. But from the Houston area, he's still available, I believe, as well.
Yeah, and you know what? Because the Texans, we know they want a corner. Hell, they don't even know who their starting corner is going to be opposite of Derek Stingley. They brought in Jeffrey Okudah, brought in CJ Henderson, both of those guys former first-round corners. So I'm with you, Patrick. They still could make a move and go get one of them.
And they have cap space.
And they do. They got I think $18 million even after the
they've got a few more. They got a little bit more space, so they can still go make a move.
That's not a bad idea, man, because listen, I love them going to get high upside players who can be, kind of renovation projects for them where they can, rehabilitate these guys who were once considered first round picks. But there's a reason that Jeffrey Okudah and CJ Henderson may not have worked in the league or may not have lived up to their draft status. I understand that DeMeco Ryans is a damn good coach. He may be able to bring it out in them when other coaches could not. But just in case neither one of those guys works out as an option, yeah, I'm with you, Patrick. Go look at Xavier Howard. Even bringing back Steven Nelson. Steven Nelson wasn't terrible for him. Actually played. Yeah. He's one of the better bump and run corners in the league. Actually, last season he was. Anyway, but let's get to the roster rankings here. So post draft, but mostly post free agency as well. Draft rankings. And the Pro Football Focus folks here, I was a little surprised because I threw this question out to Patrick earlier, and we both agreed that if you were just asking me off top who has a better roster right now, the Texans or the Cowboys, I probably would have went the Cowboys just because they had 9 All-Pros on the team last year. That was the most in the NFL. So in terms of the top end, I think the Dallas Cowboys have more top-end talent. But on this ranking, they actually have the Texans higher than the Cowboys. They have Texans 7th, the 7th highest ranked roster, or at least the 7th highest, 7th most talented roster. They're doing it from a lot of different metrics here. But they have them at the 7th best roster in the NFL, and they have the Cowboys as the 9th best roster in the NFL. And I think they're looking at depth overall because that's what the Cowboys are lacking, right? Cowboys got a lot of top end talent. We just talked about that, 9 All-Pros. but they don't have depth, right? Running back room is really weak. They even two of the starters on the offensive line, they're not sure it's going to be because you lost your starting center and lost your left tackle. Linebacker position, you're not sure about your backup linebackers, your backup D tackles, or at least your D tackle rotation, because the Mozzie Smith pick hasn't really worked out yet for you, and you lost Jonathan Hankins. So there's a question there. Third wide receiver, who's going to be the third wide receiver? Nobody knows who's going to be the third wide receiver. So there's a lot of questions about depth for the Cowboys, but the top end talent is among the best in the league. But the depth, it's a concern, and I think you could argue the Texans, in terms of the backups and the third string guys, that's better than the Cowboys. The depth is.
Yeah, and I'll go with too. If you want to say upside of this, I'll say the Texans have a lot of guys with upside too, where you can say, they had good seasons, but I think in the future you could put him there. But if you look at the Cowboys again and go, Trayvon Diggs was an elite player a year ago. He's still on that roster. He just was hurt last season. Then you had Deron Bland and Micah Parsons were both defensive player of the year. They both got votes for that. So when you start looking through that, and Lawrence, and there is some really top tier that have proven it already talent on the Cowboys. And I think the Texans are trying to get to the prove it stage, but they're still young. So it just surprises me that PFF, who you normally goes more off of what you've proven versus what, the upside, would have them a little bit higher. But, it's not, I don't think it's that big of a gap, but I just would have had them different.
Yeah, I agree. I think it all depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking at depth, Texans. If you're looking at top end talent, it's definitely, to me, got to be the Cowboys. They have here, number one team is the 49ers, most talented team based on their metrics in the NFL. And you could make the argument it certainly is. I mean, that roster is stacked. That's why it's disappointing year after year. They just keep falling short, and mostly because Patrick Mahomes is from another world. So 49ers number one on this list, most talented roster. Kansas City Chiefs are number two. And I don't know if I actually agree with that number two, but I definitely think their roster is a little underrated just because their star power sticks out. But Brett Veach is the best GM in the NFL, arguably. And Brett Veach does a really good job of stacking that roster with middle round picks in the draft. So they may not necessarily be star players or the big names, the marquee names or the household names, but they're really solid.
Yeah.
And he rebuilds. He picks a different position group to rebuild every year. It was obviously the wide receiver position group this year. He'll take whatever draft capital they have, and it will take their free agency resources, salary cap resources, and he'll just say, all right, I'm going to rebuild one position. He did it with the defensive backs a couple of years ago. He did it with the O-line a few years ago. I love that. It's such a simplistically brilliant thing to do. It's like, no, just overhaul one position totally and use all your capital to do it. And if you do that off season by off season, hell, man, you'll get to the point where you can tweak it later, but it's worked for them anyway.
No, I agree. I just, for whatever reason, I don't put them up that high. I think, they could still be top five, but it feels like it's super weighted, and I can't imagine to say they have depth that other teams don't. I mean, because this is a team that you're counting on Hollywood Brown all of a sudden being a top wide receiver in that group. You're counting on Rashee Rice to be a top wide receiver again, which he was a good wide receiver, but he was kind of number one by default at points in that season because they didn't have anybody else. And so the O-line is good, but not great. Chris Jones is great on that defensive line. I think you have some great players on that team, but again, if we're going to fault some other teams for depth, I think I would fault them for depth a little bit as well.
No, I think you're right about that. I'm sure there's a lot of different things that are used as a criteria here, but yeah, I don't know. I think that's the thing that's impressive about Kansas City is that they don't necessarily have a ridiculously talented roster. They just have elite talent in key spots, right? Best quarterback in the game. Now that Aaron Donald is retired, best D tackle arguably in the game in Chris Jones, or premium position. Best tight end of all time, potentially in Travis Kelce. Best head coach, or at least offensive-minded coach maybe of all time. Best DC in the game. Best general manager in football. So I think, that's kind of where they stand out, is because at those key positions, they're elite. I think actually now Trent McDuffie, maybe I love Trent McDuffie. I think I remember L'Jarius Sneed was also in that category as one of the best corners in the NFL at the time. So I think that's kind of where they stand out. But now L'Jarius Sneed is with the Titans. Is he signed with the Titans? Is it the Titans he signed with? I believe it's the Titans. I got to go make sure of that because you got to see him twice a year if that is the case. If you are the Texans. All right, getting back to this list. Third on the list, and that doesn't surprise anybody because they stay stacked as well. The Philadelphia Eagles, Harry Roseman keeps that group stacked. They're number 3 on this list of the most talented rosters, are the best rosters in the league. Then at number 4 on this list, you have the Jets. Didn't expect them to be that high, but that defense is loaded. And don't forget, they added Tyron Smith to the offensive line, which is one of their offensive line was one of their big issues. Their biggest weakness, it says here, is their offensive line. And if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, they got a shot. If he can stay healthy, that's a big if. 5th on this list, they got the Baltimore Ravens, 5th most talented team in the league. Detroit Lions, they got 6th. I talked about the formula to construct the Detroit Lions. Their blueprint is so unique. Brad Holmes does not believe really in premium positions. I mean, that's a lot of talk about, premium positions. There are certain positions that you should draft really high up in the draft because they're premium. And then there are other positions where you should de-emphasize because the dollar figure on those positions, like, I don't know, center and linebacker and safety, they just don't have the premium. So use your premium draft picks to draft premium positions because then you'll get them at a discount. But if you got to pay for those positions, whether that be extending your own players at those positions or going out in free agency to acquire those positions or even trading for those positions, you're going to pay a hefty price tag for them. All right. There'll be a hefty tax on them. And so he has said openly, like, I don't prescribe to that. I just look at, the film. I see a really good player. I see really good players. And after that, that's how I draft guys. And it has worked. It's worked as well as really any GM in the NFL in terms of how they operate. Nobody's been better. 21% of the draft picks by Brad Holmes since he's been there have become Pro Bowlers. Actually, damn near 22% if I round up. That is an absurd number. The Lions have selected a Pro Bowler in 7 straight NFL drafts. That's the longest active streak in the league. They have also drafted a Pro Bowler in the first round in 3 straight drafts. And they have drafted 4 Pro Bowlers in the first round over the last 5 NFL drafts. They drafted 7 Pro Bowlers in any round over the last 5 NFL drafts total. Only the Cowboys have drafted more. Except that their streak of 7 straight NFL drafts drafting a Pro Bowler is the longest active streak in the league right now. So they know what they're doing. Like I said, it's just a very unconventional. It's just not the modern model. He's just like, nope, I see a good football player, I draft that good football player.
Yeah.
Y'all thinking about premium positions and all this other stuff. I ain't looking at all that. That's not what I care about. So anyway, there you go. So the Lions, they are 6th on this list, sandwiched right there before the Texans at 7, and then in between the Texans and the Cowboys, because they're at 7 and 9, you have the Cincinnati Bengals, not surprising there, and rounding out the top 10 on this list right behind the Dallas Cowboys are the Buffalo Bills. They have the 10th best roster. I think that one team that didn't make the top 10 that I thought probably could have been in that conversation, Cleveland Browns, they're at 12. Cleveland is really talented, loaded, especially on defense. That's a loaded squad. So I thought they may have been a team. Amari Cooper still on that team. They could have made it, but they're right outside the top 10. And 11 is the Miami Dolphins. All right, there you go. That's the roster rankings by Pro Football Focus. Got the Texans higher than the Dallas Cowboys. Who would have thought that? Okay. Let's get into this CJ Stroud conversation. You know what? Let's push it to next segment because I don't want to run up against it and go real late here. So we'll save the CJ Stroud conversation for the rant of the day. CJ Stroud getting some love from the Pro Football Writers Association. You might not even heard of this award, but I think this award could tell you a lot about the future of CJ Stroud and his MVP campaign. We'll talk about that on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, we got a couple of breaking news stories here, so I'll hit those first, and then we'll get to Rod's rant after that. So we talked about this earlier this week, actually, with the Nico Collins deal. So and the ballooning wide receiver market, right? The inflation happening at the wide receiver position. Well, it's happening again. This is one of the guys we mentioned that was going to be up for a new deal yesterday, and Jalen Waddle is getting his. He just signed a 3-year, $84 million contract extension that includes $76 million guaranteed. The deal makes Waddle one of the league's top 5 highest paid wide receivers. Says this Adam Schefter tweet that I'm looking at. So, yeah, the price tag just keeps on going up, Jerry. I don't know what you're waiting on. I have no idea why you're waiting. I don't know what they're doing. This makes no sense at all. Because if Jalen Waddle's making that kind of money, then it just makes CeeDee Lamb's case even stronger because he's not even their number 1. He's the number 2.
He's their number 2, and it's 28.
Number 2.
And you're up to 28. So Nico Collins is what, 24?
He's at 24, man.
And Jalen Waddle's at 28.
28.2 now. He's at 28.2. Remember, Tyreek Hill's at 30. Tyreek Hill's $30 million. Used to be absurd. Now he's basically number 3 on this damn list, or tied for number 2, because he and Amon-Ra St. Brown are getting around the same. And then you got A.J. Brown at $32 million.
Yeah.
Remember, Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is the second receiver for Philadelphia, and he's being paid top 10 money.
And we still haven't gotten Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. Because I know we still
Brandon Ayuk wants to be paid too.
Brandon Ayuk wants to get paid, but I'm saying Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are actual top 5, top 3. I think CeeDee Lamb's in that conversation. Because we're talking to all these guys, they're getting top 10 wide receiver money because they want to pay him early. You're talking about the 3 guys that are okay. They're in a different ballpark than those guys are.
I don't know what the hell Jerry's waiting on.
Jerry, we're just waiting for a couple more of those Leafs to fall.
I guess at this point you're gonna pay him anyway. You might as well just wait and see. Because at this point you're going to end up paying. You got to pay him more than $30 million anyway.
You
and
do.
The way it's going on. You're gonna pay him 30. You waited so late. You got to pay him $30+ million.
Yeah, you're paying him $30+ million. That I get. I still think you should pay him before Jefferson and Chase.
You could have got him for 28 if you'd acted early. If you got in early, you could have got him on 28 or something. But you waited way too late. This thing. So
and the amount of guaranteed money in that Waddle deal too.
Ooh. Oh yeah. It's like, was it 76 million or something?
I mean, that's almost the whole thing guaranteed.
The whole damn thing is going to. It's $84.7 million contract, and 76 of it's guaranteed.
That $8 mil.
So
they held up on that $8 mil.
CD's gonna want that too. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna need most of it guaranteed, please. Fully guaranteed.
Do you think Jerry just wakes up every morning and he's like, they signed what they signed for? 18? 15? And you're like, Jerry.
I don't know. Remember I said, don't forget this. A few years ago, like 5 years ago, that Amari Cooper $20 million a year price tag. Remember when the Cowboys miscalculated the market? Yeah, it was considered too pricey. That was too hefty of a price tag for him. And now, oh man, what you wouldn't give to have a $20 million a year number 1 wide receiver. So I'm not saying that obviously you can't go back in time like retroactively, but my point is they miscalculated the wide receiver market once and traded him for pennies at the time when they should just kept him, because literally within like 2 years of that, it were like they went from 5 wide receivers making $20 million a year. I think now there are 20 wide receivers making at least $20 million a year. And the miscalculation here with CD was, man, should have signed him earlier.
Yeah.
Should have looked at this market and went, man, guys that are not as good as CD are being paid top 5, top 10 money. And I like Jalen Waddle, but I would say CD is a better receiver.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra St. Brown. Well, I mean, who you like more, CD or Amon-Ra? A lot of people say CD's a better receiver. So at least he has a case.
Yeah.
And if he has that kind of case, you paying him $30 million.
I mean, no, and that's Tex just brought this up. I mean, if you're looking at Nico Collins, and I think Jalen Waddle's had a little bit, more consistent success. But if you look at Nico Collins, the Texans say, well, I'm glad we got that deal done yesterday.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
I'm glad we got it done yesterday.
You saved yourself about $4 million a year.
You saved at least a couple mil a year. Mm-hmm. You saved at least a couple, and that was one day. That's just keep that in mind. Jerry, keep that in mind. Tomorrow could be worse, Jerry.
Yeah, it ain't getting better. It ain't getting better at all. Yeah. Great point. No, that deal that basically that Nick Casario got done with Nico Collins is a great deal. It's a great team friendly deal.
Yeah.
Because based on his stats, you could argue he was worth more, but they got him at $24 million. He's still making top 10 money. But I think it's also because they drafted him. Well, he was drafted what, 80 something, like 80.
Yeah, 4th round, right?
He was drafted late. He was drafted late in the draft. So I think that also is part of it. You're drafted high. Jalen Water was sometimes that, with the team that drafted you, Nico Collins probably just wanted to get it done with the team that drafted him in the same system with CJ Stroud. 3rd round, yeah. So there you go. Anyway, so that's the breaking news there. I don't know what you're waiting on, Jerry. Get her done. And we do have, CJ Vogel up on Texas football threw this out there. We have a kickoff time for the Texas OU matchup. It's at 2:30.
Yes.
2:30 p.m.
So everyone who was lobbied for it to not be an 11 a.m. game and lobbied for it to be a 2:30 game so you can get a few more drinks in you, a few more,
Well, just wake up and not have to start chugging alcohol in the sometimes you feel forced sometimes. Because all right, I want to have a buzz for the game and have a good time. It's like, all right, we're up here at 7 in the morning.
I get it not even being there when you're like starting the game off and you're still eating breakfast and you're still like getting into it. It's hard to get up for that first. I know. I used to sleep in later than I sleep in now, but
yeah, I was gonna say, but yeah, no, you're right about that. It's just weird getting ready for. You want to be up for the game, but then you're up and you feel groggy, and then I got no problem with kegs and eggs, but man, that game every year, that game's too damn big because you're too hyped for it.
Well,
for it to be that early.
And what does CDC say?
Well,
CDC says it's the best.
It is the best. Well, I think it right now. It's spectacle wise. I think he was talking about spectacle. It is the best spectacle. You can't get bigger than the Texas State Fair going on outside. So it's its own thing. Then there are just people outside just hanging out there because of the State Fair. Close to, hundreds of thousands of people out there just around the stadium. Yeah. And then the people that want to get to the game, you got to get through them to get to the game. And then the unique atmosphere being split down the middle.
No, I agree.
Makes it, there's nothing like that, man. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, 2:30 game. Yeah. That is I'm up for it. I'm up for it. Yeah. I like it.
I like it. That means our pregame, we don't have to be up at the butt crack of the morning, which we're used to, by the way. We don't have to be up that early. All right, let's get to this Raj rant here, and I'll try to be quick about this because I know we're up against it. But so CJ Stroud won an award, and he's won many of them. He's already got stuff in the Pro Football Hall of Fame because of his achievements last season. But he won what is called the Good Guy Award. It is given by the Pro Football Writers Association, Pro Football Writers of America. I think that's the actual term. But it is given by the Pro Football Writers of America, and they give it out to the player that basically makes their job easier. Very outgoing. It's given to the NFL player for his qualities and professional style in helping pro football writers do their jobs. The award has been presented annually by the Pro Football Writers since 2000. A couple of things here. So it does show you that he's very outgoing. And we know this because of the simulcast that he does with Michael Parsons. They're a little odd couple bit, which is really good and entertaining. And apparently it is a hit. And you learn a lot about him and learn a lot about his personality. And he's very outgoing, very charismatic. And I looked at the history of the players who have won this award. Jason Kelsey won it last year. Then Cameron Hayward before him of Pittsburgh. Then Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, Chris Long won it 2 years in a row, actually. Larry Fitzgerald won it. Thomas Davis, Richard Sherman, Russell Wilson, Tony Gonzalez, Tim Tebow. Aaron Rodgers actually won it 1 year. Drew Brees won it. Kurt Warner won it. Brett Favre, LaDainian Tomlinson, Tiki Barber, and Jerome Bettis. Going back, have all the guys that won it. One thing that I noticed, and I brought this up earlier, how many of those guys, probably 10 to 12 of these guys I just listed, are still in media, or at one point in their post-football career in media? A bunch of them. Like Jason Kelsey's about to get in media. Chris Long was in media. Larry Fitzgerald was. Richard Sherman. Tony Gonzalez, Tim Tebow, Drew Brees, Kurt Warner, LaDainian Tomlinson, Tiki Barber, Jerome Bettis. So it does say something. If the writers like you, members of the media like you, it's probably because you sympathize with their plight and with their situation, and y'all probably see the world very similar, and they like holding court with you because you have that kind of personality. Makes their job easier because you give them a lot of great quotes, but also it shows you have that kind of personality to be a member of the media if need be. And so there you go, CJ Stroud in the future. And we, obviously very far in the future.
Very
as
far.
Patrick mentioned. Yeah, very, very far. I can see that in his future. I remember you brought up the on the Big Fat Poll today, a topic was, what current athletes could you see being members of the media? And CJ Stroud's name came up more than a couple of times because it already it's easy to see. So anyway, that's just a sidebar. That's actually not the rant of the day, but this actually will, I think, help his MVP campaign. That's the real rant. Now, listen, I don't know how many of these pro football writers from this organization are actually the Associated Press writers. I'm sure there's some crossover. I'm not sure how many, but still behind the scenes, members of the media, they're usually on the same side. All right. And they obviously are covering the same sport. So if members of the media like him, even some of those Associated Press voters, even if they're not crossover and actually pro football writers of America, writers and voters are not a member of that organization, they'll still, like I said, see the world the same way, have a similar opinion and view of certain players, and they're gonna really like CJ Stroud. That will help you. It shouldn't. It should be about what you do on the field, but we know it matters if the media likes you. We know that from Hall of Fame votes and Hall of Fame candidacy, where we've heard numerous times, oh, this guy, he's definitely a shoo-in to get in the Hall of Fame, but he's probably not going to get in on the first ballot, or he probably won't get in here because the media didn't like him a lot. He really wasn't a favorite with the media. It shouldn't be that way, but we know it is.
I think the most primary example of this is Jason Kent winning the MVP over Barry Bonds in San Francisco.
Wow.
And that was a second baseman who was a really good player, but he was friends with the media, even though he would show up late to meetings and be like, oh, man, I was working on my truck and I've lost track of time. And oh, man, but I love you guys. And would come in and be like that. And they'd be like, oh, man, what a great, fun guy. And then Barry Bonds, who, because he was brought up by people who played in the league when there was still a lot of animosity between black players and white media, that he came up and was not to trust the media, that they will try and make you look bad and they're going to try. So he just raised that way. And so he didn't really trust the media. So they didn't like him. And who wins the MVP? Not the guy who was arguably one of the best players in baseball at the time, or the best baseball, but the guy who was the second best player on that team, on the best team.
Wow. Great example.
So that is the examples you've seen that have happened before. That's one of the primary ones that, in history, the retrospective of it, and people looking back at that one going, all right, that one seemed fishy at the time, and now that we hear even more stories about it, it seems even fishier.
Wow, that's a great example, man. You're right. That might be the best example that you could give. I don't have one better than that. But yeah, I mean, but I think CJ Stroud's going to be worthy of it. He'll be in the conversation, just if he lives up to expectations. But this will help him. If it's a tight race or close or something like that. And also, I'll point this out about CJ Stroud and his MVP candidacy here. I pointed out something either early this week or last week about how defenses are going to approach CJ Stroud now. And I think they will approach him differently because this guy had over 11% of his plays went 20 plus yards last season. He had the second highest average depth of target in the NFL and the lowest interception rate in the league. I mean, this guy is making NFL throws vertically downfield from the pocket. I mean, just doing next level veteran stuff that you just don't see from rookies. So he's going to get the same treatment that all the other prodigies get in the NFL. You can track it. From Joe Burrow to Patrick Mahomes to Josh Allen, they all get the same type of treatment. At first, a lot of teams play them with single high safeties. They play cover three or play man, force them to make difficult throws in tight windows against man coverage, or play cover three where you can bring down an extra defender into the box to help with the run and put more of a burden on that young QB shoulders. And usually, it works out for the defense. You don't see quarterbacks who are rookies light up NFL defenses. But when they do, Burrow, Mahomes, even a younger Josh Allen, not always rookies, but just young. He did as a rookie. Use his younger quarterbacks. They get the same treatment. Teams go from playing a lot of single high coverages where they were putting an extra man in the box to blitz or to help out with the run, be an extra run defender, or they go from playing man coverage with a single high safety to backing that safety up and playing two high coverage with two high safeties, putting an umbrella on the defense and taking away those big chunk yardage plays, those vertical shots, and then forcing a young quarterback to beat them by being patient, by taking what the defense is going to give you and marching the length of the field with an 11, 12, 13 play drive, which usually human error at one point, somebody missing a block, somebody dropping a pass, getting a penalty, whatever, quarterback missing a read. At one point during an 11, 12 play drive, there will be some human being on offense, human error, will make a mistake, and then that will set the offense back, get them behind the chains, put them in a third and long, and then the defense will flip and have the advantage. That's why explosive plays are so important. You go from a 12-play drive to a 6-play drive because you get a chunk yardage play, and you don't have to worry about human error as much in that situation. And that's what a lot of the young quarterbacks were doing in their careers. And then you force them to have to adapt their game, march the length of the field, take what the defense is giving them, play two high shell coverage, which the NFL does more and more with elite quarterbacks. And then when you do that, it allows the human error of other players around them, O-line, wide receiver, running back, could eventually screw up the drive, even though the quarterback, and you mitigate the damage he can do with vertical routes downfield, and he's just working the underneath and the short intermediate passes. And that's really the formula that most of the NFL is taking with elite quarterbacks. So now that he's going to see more of those two high shell coverage. And last year, I think they were top 5 in the NFL in the rate that they saw cover 3. And they saw a lot of cover 3. And I bet if I saw the man coverage numbers, they would have seen a lot of cover 1 too. I saw the stat from Warren Sharp just to give Texans fans some optimism about my prediction. If you look at quarterbacks versus two high shell coverages in 2023, based on EPA per pass attempt, the best quarterback, the most efficient, I should say, quarterback in the NFL is CJ Stroud. The most efficient. And so he didn't see him as much, those two high shell coverages, as much as he's going to see him this year. But even when he saw him, he was really efficient versus those two high shell coverages. So I expect him to be in the MVP race. And even with the adjustment that NFL is going to make to put an umbrella over his defense, over the offense with their defense, I expect him to still be just as effective and just as efficient. Oh, by the way, top 7 on this list: CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Geno Smith, Tua Tagovailoa, Matthew Stafford, and Joe Burrow. 6 out of those 7 Mick Shanahan offenses. Something about the Mick Shanahan offense, which I'll study later, that is really effective and efficient, or at least it helps the quarterbacks in those systems be really effective and efficient versus two high defenses. And it's probably the emphasis on the running game more than anything. It's the emphasis because all those systems heavy emphasis on the zone blocking running game that the Shanahan clan utilizes. All right, we come back. We'll have who said that on the other side, and then we'll wrap this thing up and put any of it. This is the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Getting ready to wrap it up and put it in the oven. New theme Thursday. That's when Patrick, the Idealionaire, my co-host, he has a new theme, a very creative theme he picks out, and every song that he plays reflects that theme. And the theme for today is the origin, or the origins, I should say, plural, of hip hop. And I like it. I gotta say, who's that? The last song.
The Treacherous 3.
Okay, there you go. See, I don't even know if I'm familiar with the Treacherous 3. That's
Treacherous 3, some innovators of hip hop there. That was the body rock.
I like that. All right. See, there you go. I learned something new from the musically themed days of the week from my man, Patrick Davis. So I appreciate that. Appreciate all of his time. Appreciate him also coming up with Who Said That. That's when Patrick plays bits of audio, sometimes from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world. And based on you being able to recall the familiarity of the voice or context clues within the audio, you're supposed to identify who said that.
You told somebody in the hallway you're singing for game 6. Where does that confidence come from?
What am I supposed to say? I'm supposed to say we're gonna lose game 5. No, I'm not gonna never say that. Michael Parsons, you know, he was rocking the AE1s, and I told him he wears size 14. I'll bring back some nice shoes for game 6. That's what I told him.
Oh, who is that?
That is Anthony Edwards.
Oh,
talking after the win in game 4. Someone asked him, he was telling people on the side that he'll see him again. He was telling people in Dallas, I'll see you again for game 6. And he's like, why you asking me why I think I'm gonna be back here? I'm not saying we're gonna lose game 5. Of course I think we're coming back. And that was where people were giving Micah Parsons crap too, because he was wearing the Luka jerseys and Anthony Edwards shoes.
I didn't realize he was wearing. I didn't know that.
That's it. He was wearing the AE1s, which is Anthony Edwards.
Okay. Yeah. I will say he's done that a lot though. He'll like wear like random jerseys and stuff. You know, that's just kind of Micah at this point.
Yeah, but he's in Dallas. You can't be wearing. He's supporting the Dallas team, man.
You gotta support especially when they're playing. Not the opponent they're playing. Come on, man. Can't be doing it at the time. That is wild. I love Anthony Edwards said that to some of the folks that worked at. I want to say they worked for the Nuggets. He said the same thing to them.
Yeah.
That like I'll be back, and then he ended up coming back there and then winning the game. So I don't know, man. I wouldn't test that dude, even though the Mavs have had a great game plan for Anthony Edwards. Hopefully that is the case tonight. All right, thank you for everything you do, Patrick. We appreciate you and all of your creativity and all of your energy here on the show today. We appreciate all you guys. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. So we're talking about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Until tomorrow, same time, same channel. Peace and hook 'em.